this is a way to actually have your voice on the show. It is completely free. voicecast.app/remember64. Just make it, anywhere between 30 seconds to 2 minutes. Leave us a message. It's completely free. You can do it on your phone. You can do it on a browser. And you can find the link on social media as well and at the description of this episode on your podcast app of choice. All right, on with the show, everyone. Welcome to Remember 64, where this week we're taking a bit of a handheld detour on our way up Spiral Mountain. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Hello again if you're a returning listener or viewer, and welcome if this is your first time joining us. Here on Remember 64, we are going through the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between of the Nintendo 64's library. My name is David Petrangelo, and I am number 3 of Mumbo Jumbo's number 5 in this Banjo-Kazooie franchise. Also, number 4 in here as well. We got lots to talk about. We're talking about the Game Boy Advance and the 2 Banjo-Kazooie games that came out for that. We'll get to that in just a moment. Jiggy, look back. How are you, buddy?
I'm fantastic. I'm happy to be a part of this episode of Remember GBA. Let's do it.
Once again, I messed it up. Thank you for correcting me. That's pretty much what it is. We have 2 people joining us for this. We have 2 games and 2 people joining us. So Josh from Still Loading Podcast is here. Josh, welcome back, buddy. We just chatted a little while ago.
Again. Yeah, you can't get rid of me. Doesn't matter how much your listeners throw fits about they hate me. I'm back again.
Well, we want you back, okay? And that's what matters.
I've actually never read anything. I'm just assuming.
No, it's all love, buddy. It's all love. And first time joining the show, Thrak from the 3DO Experience is with us. How are you?
Hi. I'm great. Thanks for having me on this podcast about a console that I hate. It's great.
No problem.
That's why we're talking GBA.
Yeah.
A console that I love. I'm just kidding. I don't hate this N64. I just think it's funny to make jokes about it.
Hey, you can joke all you want. It's all good.
Hey, I defend the Sega Saturn, so I defend the Sega Saturn. I know the 3DO sucks,
but it's fucking interesting, okay?
But hey, I defend the Sega Saturn and all that, so.
That's one of those consoles I have next to zero experience. That and 3DO are probably actually 2, and we were talking about this before we started hitting record for the episode. That, the 3DO, and the Virtual Boy are probably the 3 things I've probably had less than 10 minutes on in my entire life. Maybe collectively. So,
well, you come on my show and we'll get you 3DO'd up.
I want to, dude. I want to. I will play. We'll do it. And it's the same thing with this show. If it's something I've never heard of, never played, even more interested. Honestly. Before we get into talking about Banjo-Kazooie, Grunty's Revenge, and Banjo Pilot on the Game Boy Advance, Thrak, I just want to ask you. I guess we can all go around the table here, but Thrak, I want to start with you first because just briefly, and you can joke, you can make fun of, you can cut into whatever you want. Your experience with the N64, and then we can all riff a little bit on our experience with the GBA, since that's pretty much what we're covering this episode. So Thrak, what's coming into this year as of us sitting here and stuff? What's been your experience with the 64? Did you have it growing up? Was it later? All that kind of stuff.
So my experience with the N64 starts many years ago. So growing up, I had an NES and the Sega Genesis. That's what I played, right? And then a while after that, early 2000s, I got a GameCube. And I still have that GameCube. That's the console I grew up on, played a bunch. And then around the time I got into high school, late middle school or high school, I was watching a lot of, say, Angry Video Game Nerd and other gaming content on YouTube. So I was learning about gaming history. And, the N64 and the Super Nintendo completely passed me by. But I was starting to get some money at the time. So I was like, oh, there's a local game store by me. Let me go check it out. And I went in and they had a Nintendo 64. And I was like, I want to play that one. I want to see what the big deal is. I think I paid $40 for it. This was back when video game collecting was cheap. So I got it in Yeah, exactly. So yeah, this was about 2008, 2009. I bought an N64 and bought quite a few games for it. Like I got Mario, I got GoldenEye, I got all the wrestling games. I'm a big wrestling guy. Indiana Jones and the Infernal Machine. I had that complete in box. I paid like $20 for it. Crazy. Yeah, and a handful of other just kind of ran. I had the Blues Brothers game, which I actually don't hate. And so I remember I played it quite a bit. And I even tried buying Superman 64, but my console wouldn't play it. It just wouldn't play the thing, so I was spared Superman 64. And it was so weird because when I bought it, it wouldn't work in my N64. I took it back to the store. They popped it in their N64 and it worked. And I took it back. It still didn't work.
Interesting. You were determined. You were determined, and yet
I wanted to know how bad it was. I still haven't actually really played that game, but so I played the N64 for quite a while. Played a bunch of games on it, and just the more I went, I was just like, it's a fine console, but I don't get what the big deal is. You know, there's some good games on it, some great games, but I always found myself going back to, say, my GameCube or my 360 or even my Game Boy Advance. Those are more interesting consoles for me, so I eventually got rid of all of it. And so, in the last few years, getting into this, like, podcasting sphere that we're all in, hearing all this stuff about people liking the N64 has always made me go, like, I mean, it was good, but I don't think it was, like, that great. But, there's definitely good stuff there, but
everyone's got their own thing that sticks with them. Like for me, it was the Super Nintendo. Like you say, oh, I still have my GameCube. I still have my original SNES.
And I had a Super Nintendo for a while as well. It's actually it's the only time I've beaten Super Mario World was on the Super Nintendo. Yeah,
the GBA version's really good. All those SNES GBA versions are great.
Oh yeah,
that's right.
I'm more of a Mario 3 guy, so I've beaten every version of Mario 3 that there is.
Yeah.
I just said except the music on the GBA version. Music on it is a little rough for Super Mario World compared to the
For Super Mario World, yeah. I like the Mario 3 soundtrack on there, though.
Oh, okay. I got to hear the difference. It's been a while.
It's a different style, yeah. But the Mario 3 soundtrack is amazing, so... Yeah. So, I mean, do you want me to segue into the GBA?
Well, I was going to say, I was going to just hop in myself for a second and just say the GBA I have behind me over here. There we go. I got my direction. There we go. That's my original GBA still. That still works. The light on it is not great. That's the only thing that doesn't really work is the fact that it's really getting very dim at this point.
Is it the SP or the original?
No, the original. It's a silver.
Oh, I mean, it's
original.
not backlit, so that also.
It's not backlit. No, but it's still like darker than it was. You know what I mean? So like, there's even like a difference there. So, but it still works. The cartridges I still have still work. If I'm gonna play a Game Boy Color game, I put it in that. I played Banjo Pilot on that this week because I have a boxed full.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Nice.
It's actually in really good shape. At the time, I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to pay that much for this thing, but like, it's actually really hard to find, and it's quote unquote gone up in value in the last like 3 years since I've got it.
They all have.
I don't know what the fuck that means anymore, but
more people want it, so it just costs more money. That's all.
yeah. And I love my GBA. It's been great. I love going back and playing so many of the games that I grew up with playing and stuff. That, like, a lot of people are very, very attached to like the Switch experience and that being their sort of mobile gaming and stuff. Partially because of age, partially because of nostalgia. The GBA is the first thing I think of when I think of any kind of handheld gaming at any time. It's that specific one. I never had an SP. I had a friend who did, but so I don't really have any experience really playing it other than like sharing his. But I do know that when I've played ones since then as an adult, I don't like the form factor on it. So I think the form factor of the GBA itself works for even slightly larger hands. I think because it's not just a square essentially. So I don't know. I love my GBA.
Oh, if you hate the SP form factor, well, you see the Game Boy Micro.
Oh my God, that thing is that's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous idea. Ridiculous idea.
I kind of defend it, but I can get to that later.
That's just my I don't know.
I get it.
I don't want to strain my eyes more than I have to, you know?
That's fair.
Jiggy, what about you, buddy? Because we've talked a lot about, through episodes, obviously the 64, but we've talked about your experience with Dreamcast and PlayStation and obviously Switch and stuff too. But like, do you have a GBA? Did you? What's the deal with that for you?
Oh, absolutely. I had let me go back. Okay. I had a Game Boy Pocket. First, I had a red Game Boy Pocket. I never got the first generation of Game Boy. I was a little too young for that.
Yeah, I had all of them. It's ridiculous.
Did not have that. I had a red Game Boy Pocket with Pokemon Blue. And that was epic. And then I upgraded to the purple Game Boy Color that was the atomic purple translucent.
Yeah.
And then I got the translucent light blue Game Boy Advance, which I think it's somewhere in a box here. I don't have it on display because it's broken. It does not work anymore, unfortunately. I do have my SP sitting on the shelf back here. I had a blue SP. Sort of similar story. The reason why my old Game Boy Advance doesn't work is because hand-me-downs to little brothers, and little brothers destroy everything. He destroyed the DS. He just shout out to my brother. Thank you.
Thank you for ruining my value.
I do have a really cool. I bought this from a guy who had it custom built or whatever, or it's just like a IPS screen. Well, he bought it for himself, and I was just like, sure, I'll buy it from you when he wanted to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. Really nice looking screen. Love reliving some of the GBA classics on it. But yeah, this convenient silver case here, I did not treat my Game Boy games well. And to this day, I still do not treat them well. So you're not going to see any good complete in-box copies. And this is how I stored all my Game Boy games. And this is not all of them. Some of them my brother has.
For anyone who's not seeing this, it's just he's opening a briefcase as if it's a stack of cash from the fucking Sopranos or something.
I was gonna say that's the briefcase from Pulp Fiction.
Or Pulp Fiction.
The one that Travolta opens and the light shines. It's because he was seeing that value of Game Boy games.
No Royale with cheese in here.
That's a lot of games too. That thing's got some depth to it. That box. Holy shit!
It's stacked, and there's some games like floating around, like on the back shelf and stuff too. So
nice.
They are hard to store. It's a problem.
Yeah, 100%. Especially the GBA ones. They're so tiny. Like before the Switch was an issue, it was this. For sure. Josh, let's go to you, buddy. What's the GBA experience for you?
Sure. So I didn't have much of an experience back when it was when it was contemporary. Excuse me. The GBA was a weird one for me because I don't think this perception is correct, but my perception of it growing up was that it was kind of the handheld that people forgot about because the Game Boy was huge and then what was it? The GBA came out in 2001, and then 3 years later the DS was out. So you have this very short span of time that the GBA was a thing, relatively speaking. Mm-hmm. And if you think about it, because what was it? The 3DS came out,
2011.
2011. So you had, thank you, Thrak. So that's a 7-year gap between the DS and 3DS. The original Game Boy, if you count the Game Boy Color and Pocket and the different iterations, even though the Color is a little bit of a step up from the original, either way, came out in 89, and you're looking at a 12-year gap between the original Game Boy and its full-on successor, not the half step, which was the the color. Yeah. So it's the Game Boy Advance to me always felt like the handheld that people that time forgot, right? That people just don't remember.
When you look at it on a calendar like that, it completely makes sense. Like I get what you mean. Well, yeah,
because by the time I was aware of it, I had friends that had it. I had friends that had like the Final Fantasy Origins collection that you could get for it.
Yeah, Dawn of Souls 1 and 2.
Yep, Dawn of Souls, and they also obviously Golden Sun, which shout out to later on this year. I have to cover that game for my backlog month.
Hey, so, there you go.
I'll be playing through the first Golden Sun game. Thank God for. I mean, I actually do have the original Game Boy Advance copy of it, but I'm playing it on the Switch so that way I can it's backlit and I can put headphones in because I only have an SP. So the SP does not have a headphone jack.
Yeah, dumb feature.
That is so stupid.
Feature.
So stupid.
It is,
even at that time,
considering when it came out.
Yeah.
And just since Jiggy had a visual prop, it's not a Game Boy Advance game. I wish I had one within reach. I have a Game Boy Color game made by a buddy of mine that came out earlier this year.
That looks really cool.
Bubbo Escape for the Game Boy Color. Shout out to my buddy Gabe Swore who made this game.
Nice.
Is that like a puzzle game?
Yeah, it's like a puzzle, not platformer. It's basically you play as this little cannon named Bubbo. He shoots bubbles. The puzzle of it is that he is always shooting no matter what, and you only have a certain number of bubbles in each level. So you have to look at the level and then figure out where to move Bubbo, so that way when the shot comes next, because it comes on the same rhythm, same interval every second or so.
Yeah,
then you have to take out the full enemy. It's actually it's really fun.
It's almost like an active
short.
timer in a way. That's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. It's on itch.io and it's $5.
Oh shit, beauty.
Yeah, Gabe's a good dude. He's been on my podcast before. Really nice guy. He also, just to give him some more cred, that he already shipped a game, which is cool. But he was the executive producer of the Animaniacs reboot.
Oh
that
shit!
Came out on Hulu a couple years ago.
Cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Anything Animaniacs,
I
I'm there
completely
for.
forgot about that.
I watched
it.
It's actually
awesome.
really good.
It is good.
Anyway, I'm
yeah.
digressing.
That's
So
cool.
I just figured I'd share that as a visual prop. Also, give my buddy Gabe some much needed love. He actually had another game in the Bubbo series come out called, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the name. I'll look it up while I'm finishing my story of the GBA. But yeah, so my experience with the GBA was pretty much non-existent, and it's Bubbo Burst. That is Gabe's newest game that just came out earlier this year. Anyway, so yeah, the GBA I didn't really have too much of, and in general, handhelds for me have been a blind spot until the last like 4 or 5 years. Like I owned a lot. I owned a Game Boy Advance. None of it was actually contemporary. I always bought them used well after they were released.
Right.
Game Boy I got after its life cycle was over. GBA, same thing. The DS I got during its life cycle, but I never fucking played it until after its life cycle. The only handhelds that I actually played during their actual life cycle were the Vita and the 3DS. And even then, I barely touched it. And it wasn't until I started podcasting that I really sat down. I'm like, okay, let me dive into this. And I've been enjoying it ever since. So the GBA, I when you said like, hey, we're looking for guests to talk about GBA game, I'm like, that is one of the consoles I've played the least. So I will look for any excuse to dive in and try out some new things. Though I guess full disclosure, I did not play any of Banjo-Pilot mainly because I didn't have time. And honestly, I'm not a kart racing fan, so I will keep my opinions a little bit lower on that one. I have lots to say though about Grunty's Revenge, which we'll get to.
Nice.
So.
It's not a racing game. It's a flying game.
Yeah, that's it's not a kart game. It's a plane game.
Yeah, kart games are for babies. This is great.
Somehow
This is a kart in the sky.
That somehow your plane still goes slower over grass.
I was gonna say that.
Really long grass. Okay, really long grass.
Man, there's a lot of turbulence on this grass here.
Calling
It's
someone
about
to
the
cut your
propulsion,
grass
okay?
in this economy? Come on.
Can I ask?
The price of grass.
Can I ask what? Has everyone given their GBA history?
Thrak has
to
not.
cover that?
Thrak has not yet.
Thrak is not. Okay. Can I add just? What are some of your favorite games, Josh? Before we move forward, I'd love to hear everyone's favorite. Like, if you have like a top GBA game, if you have one that you're just like, I love this.
Specifically.
Do you have
I
any?
barely played any.
Yeah,
I
got
barely played any. I can't even say what my favorite would be.
So
I
Banjo's
barely
Grunty's
touched any of
Revenge?
them.
Grunty's Revenge.
Out of the ones I've beaten, yes, because it's the only one I think I've fully beaten.
on.
Yeah. Well, happy to
start
help,
somewhere.
man. Happy to help.
That's the title of this episode. Josh's favorite GBA game.
Banjo-Pilot.
Banjo-Pilot, yeah.
I fucking hate grass. It's so coarse and turbulency.
Turbulency. I like it.
Gets everywhere.
It gets everywhere.
It gets everywhere. All these grass clipping.
Thrak, let's go to you then. Let's chat about your experience and then those like couple games that might be your favorites.
So I fucking love the Game Boy Advance. I'm a big GBA guy. I got a GBA again early 2000s when it was new. Because back when I was growing up, there was this kid who always used to. So my mom would like babysit for like random kids, so there's always like a group of us hanging out. And one of them, she brought her like original GBA, and she had like Mario Advance, and I think there was some like Tom and Jerry game the Infernal Escape. We played those a bunch, and I was like, this Game Boy Advance thing's pretty fucking cool. Because I had a Game Boy Pocket. I had like Tetris Plus, Kirby's Dream Land 2, Solar Striker. I had Pokemon Red, but I've never really been a big Pokemon guy. So even though I played Red a bunch, it just never made me like a Pokemon guy. But so I had the Pocket. I still have my yellow Game Boy Pocket around here somewhere. And then I got a GBA SP with, I know I got Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, and there's like an Incredible Hulk game and some other stuff, and I played the shit out of that GBA. And so much that when the DS came out, I was pissed. I was like, how dare you, Nintendo, drop my favorite handheld for this new bullshit thing? Exactly. I was just a kid. So I never got a DS until many years later out of protest.
I was one of the only people, I think, in the world that never had a DS ever. I have never.
Really?
I eventually got one. I eventually got one many years later and messed around with it, and it's really fun.
Yeah. I had a 3DS a few years after it came out, but I never had a DS. Yeah.
Well, you can play DS games on the 3DS. So, and if you homebrew your 3DS, you can just load DS games on an SD card, and which is what I do. But the thing is, they were still making GBA games well past the DS launch. Like even up to like I think it was like 2008, they were still making GBA games. Like Minish Cap came out like when the DS was a thing. So because Nintendo was smart dropping the DS as early as it did, because had the DS flopped, they could have sold it as a GBA because it had the GBA slot and could have kept supporting the GBA. So really, it was like they were in a no-lose situation. So that helped. But quite a few years ago, I started collecting for the GBA. So there's like these 3 tubs here that are basically full of GBA games. There's like hundreds of them in there. Like I have some complete in box. I have some with the retro game cases. If you guys have seen that for like handheld games, those are really cool. And also, I have every model of the Game Boy Advance, so we'll do some visuals.
Hey, look at that.
Cool.
I have an original.
Yeah, that's what I have.
Yeah, it still, I believe it still works. Let me turn the thing on. Yeah, it still works.
The beautiful,
Great
screen.
console, but the screen, like, we put up with this.
Yeah,
it's
it's
put up
trash.
with this.
It's so dark. People need to talk about this because versus even the Game Boy Color, it was darker.
Yeah.
It was hard. Like you'd hold it against the light, but it was.
And that's why so many early games have like a really washed out color palette, so you could see them. But they did the SP. This is the SP001. Mine is dead at the moment. I just need to charge it. So there are 2 different versions of the SP. There's the 001 AGS, and then there's this one, which is the AGS 101, which is so basically what it is the 01 is a front-lit screen, and the 101 is a backlit screen.
So the
the front lit. That's right.
Basically, the way to describe it, it's like the square is like a light ring. It's like they built a worm light into it so you could see it, and it's
perfectly
like along the
fine.
frame, like.
Yeah, and it works. It's not amazing, but it works. And you can get these for like pretty cheap. Even the original models you can get for pretty cheap and mod them. But the 101s have like a complete backlit screen. Mine actually is still working.
Ooh, you can see even through the camera. That looks nice.
Yeah. Oh, it just died immediately.
These things do not.
But even just the Game Boy, woo!
They don't hold charges anymore. I bought like a new battery for this. It still doesn't hold a charge. But yeah, so the 101 is pretty good. I see why people don't care for the form factor, but I'm used to it, and I have kind of tiny hands, so it's fine. And speaking of tiny hands, I do have a Game Boy Micro. Don't ask what I paid for this. Too much money. But honestly, like it is small, but the screen is really nice. Like it's small, but it's like the brightness and the definition is really good. It has like 10 different levels of adjustment. And if you have tiny hands like me, it goes for the OG form factor. And it's actually not terrible. I've messed around with it enough, and it's fine. Mine doesn't work, and the R button is broken. So,
does it have a headphone jack?
Yes, it does.
Oh, what a great idea!
You can't play Game Boy or Game Boy Color games on this guy. You can only play Advance. But I mean, you have to see how small this thing is to
it's so.
I do have a GBA cart with me, not to show off, but it's a Aria of Sorrow. One of my favorite Castlevania games. And yeah, like that's the size of it compared to the console. Exactly.
It's the size of 2 games.
Yeah, basically. In fact, that guy was sitting in this little guy, the GB Operator by Epilogue, which is basically a little epilogue. So basically, it's a little Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance thing that you can just plug it into your PC via USB, and you can just play Game Boy games on your computer. You can like back up saves, download saves. It even can check to see if your games are like, fake or not, which is really cool. In fact, I have a fake GBA game right here, Doom. Because though I did get my money back on it. The guy was nice about it. Because I've learned how to detect fakes. But yeah, there's that, and then also I have an analog pocket. So. And that's a nice way to play them as well. Like people usually complain about how shallow the cartridge slot is, and it is, but for GBA games, it's not too bad. I mean, it's so small, but like if you put something else in there, it'll be a little iffy. Like I have the Game Gear adapter because I'm also a Game Gear collector. That's another story. Yeah, I'm trying to get all the Game Gear library. I'm like 42%.
Is the Game Gear library made up of 17,000 batteries, or is it actually games?
Well, I play it on this guy.
Just
because my Game Gear quit out on me. But
yeah,
the Game Gear's a whole nother thing. There's
as most have, yeah.
But there's a lot of really cool Game Gear games. So bring me back on. We can talk Game Gear.
I know, man. If we get some Sega crossovers.
There we go.
But I also have the e-reader for the GBA.
Oh, I had a buddy who had one of those.
Yeah, and I have a set. I have a set of the Mario Advance 4, Mario 3 cards, and I've done the thing where you put this guy in the SP, you put the game in the other SP, you link cable them, you swipe the card. Really stupid, but I did it just to make myself happy. So on my gravestone it'll say I did the thing, and then I also have the little wireless adapter thing. Yeah, I found one for like $5. So, I've been meaning to get the.
Never owned, but I've like used at some point because of a friend. So it's like kind of cool. It's like a little trip down memory lane. I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
And so what I want to do at some point is find a way to display all the GBA models.
Just to be like, there you
like
go.
a 3D printed sort of like little shelf or whatever. Yeah. That's...
Mm-hmm. But yeah, favorite GBA games. I could go on, but Metroid Fusion, my favorite Metroid game. The Advance Wars games, Mario Advance 4. Let's see. There's a game called Medal of Honor. What's the Medal? Infiltrator. Yes, that game is really fucking cool. Final Fantasy Tactics.
Which one's Mario Advance 4? Oh, that's Mario Brothers.
That's Mario 3. Yeah. I'm just looking at my game. Mother 3. I do have a physical of Mother 3.
It's funny. I forgot. This might be on your list too, Thrak. I did actually play one other Game Boy Advance game, and I feel like an idiot because I literally just covered it for Mario Month this year. Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga.
Oh, yeah, that's a cool...
That is a great game. I've beaten it. I hate the final boss battle, but the rest of the game is fantastic.
Oh, yeah, it's awful. If anyone is curious, you can listen to my episode. I was pissed at that boss.
But yeah, Minish Cap, Golden Sun, all the Final Fantasy ports are great. The Tony Hawk games are really good on GBA.
Yeah, I have 2, I think. I have Tony Hawk 2. Yeah, it's good. It is.
Wario Land 4, one of my greatest achievements. The first 2 WarioWare games, because you have the original, then you have Twisted, which is like the weird, like they put a gyroscope in the cartridge, so you like turn it around. It's really cool. I do have it. All the Castlevania games for it, the Fire Emblem games for it, the Sonic Advance trilogy. Well, the first 2, Sonic Advance 3 is kind of, but Astro Boy Omega Factor, that is a fantastic game.
Oh, I heard that was good.
It's made by Treasure, and it's pretty fucking good. I could go on and on about GBA.
Yeah, that was a pretty extensive list.
And also Klonoa.
Yes. Okay, that's what I was waiting.
I have a Klonoa sticker on my little water bottle.
Yes.
Empire Dreams, that's the one.
My 2 favorite Game Boy titles, arguably, or GBA titles, are Klonoa, Empire Dreams. I played that game tons. Loved it.
So good.
I also really enjoyed Mega Man Battle Network as a series. I loved 4, Red Sun in particular. I remember getting it for Christmas. I just freaking loved it. 5 was also very good. Wasn't super into 6, but 4 and 5 were like my favorite.
Yeah, I wasn't into those games. I didn't really get into Mega Man until like a couple years ago. So those completely passed me by. I was always more of a Castlevania guy.
I like them, but I'm so bad at them.
Battle Network, if you haven't played it, it's like an RPG with like a weird like.
That's what I heard.
I don't even know how to describe the battle system. It's like you move on like 6
tactical
squares. Tactical, but
is it turn-based? I don't even know if it's turn-based.
It's not turn-based.
It's not turn-based. Okay.
It's kind of a really weird battle system, but it focuses on like chips and powering up your character, and then like it's
I like that.
Cool. It's unique. It's different.
Yeah,
that's fun.
The problem was they made way too many of them way too fast. They made like 6 of them in like 3 years.
Yeah, you just like listed off. Yeah, 4, 5, 6 were great. I was like, wait, there was a 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Honestly, they could have kept making them into like the 3DS if they spaced them out correctly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
They could have kept. They probably still be making them.
They are. I think they are making them. I think they are.
No, they did the collection.
DS,
collection.
Which the DS had number 5. It did like basically. So they tried to do like a Pokemon thing where they did like 2 versions.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the DS made 5. It just skipped 6. 6 was only GBA, and then they put 5 on DS, and they made it like a double pack. So it was like one cartridge that had both games, Team Proto Man, Team Colonel, and the DS version was actually pretty dope. I'm not gonna lie, but that was like the last hurrah of Battle Network.
Yeah, that was when Capcom
really cool.
was doing everything Mega Man they could. Now they're like, Mega who?
Who's
that?
Yeah, really. I know.
Yeah.
My
on that Legends collection.
My top ones. Actually, 2 of them I actually really only played fairly recently, or at least within the last decade, which for me is recent considering when I got the GBA. Like you said, Thrak, when it came out, that's when I had it too. And I never owned these games growing up, but Minish Cap became one of my favorite Zelda games of all time when I played that.
It's one of my favorites too.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And that's like quintessential sort of, for me anyway, GBA art style. There's something special about the way that the sprites look on the GBA and stuff, and that is like exactly the feel and the look that I always think of when I think of the GBA. It just captured it in such a great way in a Zelda title, which is awesome.
I like how they took the Wind Waker
character designs and made them 2D.
Yes,
aesthetic,
that's pretty much what it is.
I love the Wind Waker aesthetic, so making it in 2D, like, perfect fit.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned Fusion. I actually prefer Zero Mission over Fusion. Maybe that's just...
Zero Mission is great.
Yeah,
I love me some Zero Mission, but Fusion...
I play that game like once a year. It's a very special game for me.
Well, it's great, and I didn't play either of those until recently. Like, I think I played Minish Cap, Zero Mission, and Fusion all probably within the same year, like about 2, maybe 3 years ago. So and Zero Mission, for some reason, I don't know, whatever, it just clicked with me better. And then one of my favorite games, and then one of my favorite games of all time, which I've mentioned numerous times here, and I do think the Game Boy Color version is better because it's simpler. But like the simplification of it is almost better. But that's the Mario Golf games. So Mario Golf Advance Tour is amazing. Yes. I think the sort of one for Game Boy Color is just like the dial down just a touch, and that sort of hits that sweet spot in my opinion for me. So, and those like you say you played Fusion like every year. Both Mario Golf games I could pick up and
here it is. Custom game cases. Sorry, I got it wrong. Yeah, I have the manual in it. It's really nice.
There you go. Yeah, so those are it for me. So,
but the GBA Mario Golf game, you can golf with Golden Sun characters.
Golf with Golden Sun characters.
Well, because Camelot made it, and they're the exact same character model. They're also the same character models used in Shining Force 3 because they made that for the set.
Oh, are they really?
Yes.
Don't get me started on Shining Force.
Not this time.
There's a really good GBA remake of the first game, of the first Shining Force, though. Yeah. It's very expensive. Don't buy it.
I will not. Don't worry. I will not. That's all I had to hear. Okay, let's get to one of the 2 games. What are we talking about again? One of the 2 games that we're going to be talking about. Let's start with, it's playing here for the last several minutes since we've been talking about the GBA. Let's talk about Banjo-Kazooie, Grunty's Revenge. Who wants to put their hand up first for their experience, if they had any previous, and how it went this last couple weeks for them. I'm going to wait a little bit because I'm very curious to see what people thought of this. So Josh, let's go with you, buddy, because
Sure.
You said you made your way all the way through it, and
Yes.
don't have a ton of GBA experience, which is a little bit of a unique sort of approach, I think, like when it comes to these games. Because I just automatically assume that people have played the GBA forever. So that's just me.
No, yeah. So this was my first time playing it. I will say, I'm overall, like if I had to give my overall vibe to it, overall feeling to it, I enjoyed my time with the game. I thought overall it was a pretty fun experience. It was a really good like not delineation, but a really good porting of the Banjo-Kazooie 3D platformer collectathon to a 2D world and a 2D viewpoint. I kind of isometric-ish a little bit too. A
little bit,
because
yeah.
It's like Zelda.
You do play with height a little bit with this. So I thought it was a pretty good distillation. That's the word I was looking for. That was
a big word.
I like that.
That was
today's word is distillation. Today's letter
Distillation.
is D.
Give me that D, baby. No, it's a good distillation of the 3D formula that for those who like the original Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie games, it's a pretty good distillation of that. They honestly do a really good job of taking a lot of the mechanics from 3D and finding a way to make them work on a 2D gamepad, with just a D-pad, A and B buttons, and then the bumpers or the L and R. Where it kind of falls apart is, I think, when they start adding the different egg types, because as Kazooie, you can get like fire eggs and ice eggs and that kind of stuff. And that's a little tedious, especially considering there is a segment of the final boss where you have to cycle through, depending on what type of enemy you're facing, determines what type of eggs you need to defeat the little sub-enemies, and that's a pain in the butt to cycle through those. In the game, it's not so much of a problem because they don't make you do stuff with a really intensive time limit. Like, these guys are bearing down on you in the boss fight, so you don't have a lot of time. You have to cycle through quickly and hope that you don't get hit, and hope that you do it fast enough, or you have to stop, run away from them, and then just continue to cycle. And that's a bit of a pain in the butt. So overall, it was a good distillation. Where I think it falters the most is its perspective. It's 2.5D isometric perspective. It is goddamn impossible to see like height on this because of the way they designed the pixel art, especially, you had it up on the screen a little bit ago, Dave, the underwater segments. It is there is no visual indication that you're supposed to really swim through holes in the coral. You figure it out. Like, you are able to figure it out, so I will give them that, but I don't think it's really well broadcasted.
It's not intuitive. It's not intuitive.
It's not. That's the better. Yeah, it's not intuitive.
No.
Distillation, intuition. There we go.
Yeah. So it's not intuitive in the slightest, and they also make it because of that same issue with how they design the world in this 2D plane. There's some jumps that you make that you think you're going to make, but you don't because of the perspective. So its biggest issues for me were that perspective. And I don't know if you want me to go off on a 20-minute rant, but I can. The final boss is fucking bullshit.
We'll get there, because I think there's lots to talk about. We'll get there. Yeah. Thrak, go ahead, buddy. What's your? Or sorry, Josh, go ahead.
The only time I used a save state. The last thing I was going to say, it's the only time I used a save state in the entire playthrough.
Oh, I see.
Literally, I used a save state. I literally used a save state right before. Right after you climb up the tower and right before you enter into the boss.
Gotcha.
Because to put out those fucking fires to shoot a fucking egg and tie that fucking hole so you can fucking jump up the fucking thing, and I just fucking hate it. So yeah, sorry.
Go on.
Oh man, and then the boss itself was a pain, which we'll get to, but that's the only time I used a save state, and then I died so many times to the boss anyway that I started save stating in the middle of it because I just didn't care anymore. I'm like, I've already proven I can get to this with this level, and actually relatively consistently. I don't feel like doing this again and again and again when I've already proven I can get to this. So I don't count save stating as I beat the game if I did it. Like, no issue if someone else does. I just can't do it for myself. This time I did because I thought this was more of just wasting my time than actually testing me on something. But
that's fair.
Anyway,
that's fair.
And a mini rant. I will re-rant when we get to the boss.
Thrak, go for it, buddy. What was your sort of Was this the first time you played it? And
so
I 100% of this game a couple years ago. Yeah, I did everything. I don't know what propelled me to do it, but I did. And so yeah, I messed around with it a little bit again just to refamiliarize myself. And yeah, I was surprised at how well they were able to take like a 3D platformer and convert it to a quasi like 2.5. It's like the top-down Zelda perspective, but they're still using like 3D character models for Banjo and all that, and they look really good. And yeah, they were somehow able to make a platforming game from that perspective, which kind of worried me. And there are definitely some depth perception issues, especially if you're trying to jump up onto something, but I found when I was playing it, the more I played it, the more I got used to it and kind of learned how they judge height, so you can just kind of adapt your brain a little bit. And yeah, there's like a lot of mini games in this as well, like arguably too many, like all the fishing and the quiz answering and all that other stuff. But I found myself enjoying the game overall. It was a pretty solid and interesting experience as a way of converting Banjo-Kazooie to the Game Boy Advance. Well, I was saying, yeah, it's the only Banjo game I've beaten, so I have limited experience. I've never played Banjo-Tooie, ever. I've played a bit of Banjo-Kazooie off and on N64, and I like it. In some ways, I like it more than Mario 64. In other ways, I don't. And then Nuts and Bolts, I do not like at all.
I have very, very little
That's not
experience
that hot of a
playing that
take.
game. Yeah,
Some
yeah, it's
people
really not.
like it. I know people who love that game.
I gotta give it another shot.
But they love it for like specific reasons, reasons that I understand. But like when I played it, I'm like, this isn't what I wanted.
Right. I think that's largely the issue. I think that's like the overall like disappointment with it is like, oh, this is not what I wanted or needed or expected or whatever at the time. So
yeah.
Jiggy, I feel like I don't know if you're gonna say this is awesome, or you're gonna say, or if you've played this before now, or if you're gonna say this is the worst decision they could have ever done and bring me back to the 64. I really don't know where you're gonna sit with this. So what'd you think?
Well, first off, I just want to say, like, Nuts and Bolts is fine. I don't think it's fantastic, but I feel like I've been going through like, it's not that bad, guys. But you're right, it's not Banjo 3. But I also thought it was interesting that you said that after you said you never played Dewey. So I'm like, okay. I love the Banjo series, obviously. I did play this one growing up. I did not beat it growing up. I found it really hard. And like kid me struggled to get through it.
Yeah, there's some tough spots with this in terms of like puzzles and whatnot. Sorry to cut you off, but
Yeah,
I could see how
totally.
Like I could see I had to use a walkthrough in some spots just because I'm like I don't feel like aimlessly wandering for like 20 minutes just to find another goddamn piece of a puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I remember feel about Banjo-Kazooie.
Oh my gosh. That's another thing. We'll talk about that some other time.
I'll beat it, and then we can talk about it.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Let's do it. It plays good. I think, like what they were saying, I thought it translated pretty well the game mechanics that I'm familiar with. Banjo felt like Banjo. The world feels very Banjo-y. I honestly, if I was gonna play it for something though, I'd be playing it for like the little lore and like just the story, like 1.5. I think that's pretty cool. This takes place in between Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie. What I can't stand about it is the fact that you have moves like the drill peck, and I'm just like, okay, that's a move we learned in Tooie, but we get in Grunty's Revenge, and Banjo just doesn't know it, and you need it in Tooie, like it to save your like goldfish Royston. It's like, I don't know. It's like little things like that. It's sort of like kind of broke up consistency between the games, which it's not that big of a deal.
It's a lore thing. It's a lore thing. I get it.
It's a lore thing, and
this came out after Tooie, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Both these GBA games did. Yeah.
They probably just forgot.
Yeah. Rare does that sometimes. It's cool. I like it. It's not my favorite Banjo game, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
there's some things I like. I like how you can go to Mumbo because Mumbo's happening right now. I like how you can go to Mumbo and you can actually pick what transformation you want. I thought that was a really cool mechanic. So it's like
I do like that.
you could be a different transformation in a different level
in a different world.
you need to do that. I think that's really neat.
Yeah.
I love just how all the characters and everything looks. I think like looks wise, I'm really impressed with this GBA title. I think it's really cool. I did have the same depth perception issues. Like it was frustrating at some points. You really have to rely on your shadow. So you kind of gauge when landing on something, which is nothing new to 3D platformers, but in a 2D platformer, weird.
I'll give them credit. They tried to make the shadow as dynamic as possible when you're going up and down. Like they tried to make up for it.
That's true. It's not just like a flat, always the same shape or whatever. Yeah, that's true.
They tried.
Yeah.
So I sit somewhere in the middle. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's great. I think it's okay to good, and it's a fun experience. But I definitely I'm probably not going to replay it. That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
I also think that the voice acting gets under my skin very easily. If I have to hear like I know that in Banjo-Kazooie and Tooie and even like DK64, they kind of have that same type of like voice cadence, like the voice sounds. For some reason, that doesn't bother me as much.
Thank you.
On the N64 as it does on this. This one really like grated my nerves like
really
real bad.
Okay. I like it. I like that.
That's probably the sound chip or the lack of a GBA sound chip.
Yeah,
which I could understand.
Yeah,
and I think there's also a memory thing. So like there's fewer iterations of the gibberish.
Yeah.
So they're working with less, and I think they're also like just. I mean, that's no stranger to the Banjo series, just like pitching slightly different versions of the same. I honestly turn on the music just to hear the stage like 1 or 2 times, and then I play it on mute. That's how I play.
That's fair.
So
did Grant Kirkhope work on this? I doubt he did.
No,
I don't think so.
I don't. Not neither of these titles he was a part of. That's
fair.
So what's interesting too about this is that it's right at the time, and I think it was this one specifically, or was it Pilot? I don't remember. I think it was this one specifically where it was supposed to come out a year before, and it just took kind of a while to get going. And then what happened was this got released right when Microsoft bought Rare. So there was a lot of internal and external sort of bullshit going on that probably led to a lot of changes.
Yeah, this was published by THQ.
THQ.
And there's a handful of GBA games that Rare made that are published by THQ because Microsoft allowed that because they weren't going to publish on Nintendo systems, at least not yet.
Not yet, yeah.
So there was there was the Saberwolf remake.
The Banjo Pilot is also THQ. So
and it's Mr. Pants, which a lot of people forget is a Rare game.
Yeah, exactly.
So this actually started as a GB Color title.
Yes.
And it sort of transitioned into it, and Banjo Pilot, just to like piggyback into that, was actually supposed to be Diddy Kong Racing. I don't know if it was supposed to be Diddy Kong Racing 2.
Diddy Kong Pilots is just what they called it, but I don't know.
I thought it started off as Diddy Kong Racing 2 and then transitioned to Pilot, and then they switched to Banjo. And
they switched to Banjo because they couldn't.
Chain.
Yeah, I have a couple notes written down about it too. They switched to Banjo because then it was Microsoft and they didn't have the rights to the Nintendo characters, so they had to find another way to pull it off. So
Microsoft was like totally for them making GBA titles, by the way.
Yeah,
because they just didn't have a handheld, and they're like, sure, like great.
Why wouldn't you take advantage of that chance when you have it, right? Because they didn't have it otherwise.
I think they flirted with the idea of making a handheld in the 360 era, but it never really came to be. But there is that one that's supposedly coming either this year or sometime next year.
Sometime in the next couple of years. I'm interested.
I
am too.
I'm curious. How about this? I'm curious.
I'm curious too. I mean, I'm an Xbox guy, so I'm curious.
I love my Game Pass. That's that. So I'm curious just because of that alone. So
I like the controller.
Well, I have Game Pass as well.
Yeah,
but I would just put Game Pass on a Switch too. Let's just do it.
Or just Steam Deck.
They tried. It didn't work out.
What was I going to say? Oh, I was going to say I am pretty much. I think we're all kind of in agreement with how this game is. Is it amazing? No. Do they do a decent job? Yes. Does it feel the best at every point and all the puzzles and the depth perception? No, there's some issues with that. There's a lot of that's just limitation of the hardware. It's hard to sort of translate that. I do think like I didn't have that much of a problem with the depth stuff, but it's only certain points where I was like, this is ridiculous. Like this cliff above me looks exactly the same as what I'm standing on. How could I possibly know that this is above me or below me? This is stupid. The difference of where it works, no problem, is like what we're seeing right now on the screen with like Spiral Mountain and stuff. It's easy to see because, you know, the walls are brown and the ground is green for grass, and it's just, you just know, right? And that's totally fine. But otherwise, there's a lot of points where you just run into it and you're just like, well, I don't understand how you could have possibly done that. So
it's funny because the level that's on screen right now is one of the levels with the worst instances of that, with the in the bayou with the docks and stuff. Like there's a section down in the southern part of the dock that like I genuinely could not tell that I was going to be able to jump high enough to reach it, but you can. But it doesn't. It feels like when you do your crouching high jump, it doesn't feel like I would be able to reach it, but you can, and it's very hard to really kind of gauge that, which is frustrating.
Yeah, the interesting part is that like the shadow thing that we were talking about is present for you, but it's often not present for the platforms. So you can't really like. There's sometimes you'll see the legs of whatever you're trying to jump on or off in front of you, and that's fine, but if you're kind of at the back of it, you can't really tell. So it looks like you can just walk right onto it. No, but no, instead I'm just walking into like, poison essentially.
And one thing when you're talking about how like, this game's not great, but it's solid. It's good, but not bad, but not great. I've been seeing the discourse a little bit more recently on Blue Sky and other things like that, but like what is a perfect like 7 out of 10 game? To me, this is a 7 out of 10 game where it's like
I'd say that's fair.
Doesn't do anything great, but it's like it's solid. It's a real I'd even give it like a 7.5 if I was actually grading it on like a out of 10 scale, but I also usually grade things a little more lenient than other people. So like I don't know, to me this is like a 7 out of 10 game. Like it's got a lot of solid stuff going for it, but it's just there's some really weird things and even like right now, like the mini games are very odd.
Yeah, so if anyone can't see it,
that we see on screen, just
the mini games are like
there's so many of them. I feel like it's excessive. I think it's just trying to pad the game because the game's not super long anyways. So I think it's trying to pad out the experience, and they're just
2 hours
and for the most part, like the mini games just they're not great.
I have a question for the 4 of you or the 3 of you. I have a question for the 3 of you. I only saw this one mini game on the final boss. I don't know if I would have. I don't think I saw it anywhere else. So the mini game that we're seeing on screen right now, I know listeners won't be able to see it, but essentially, Banjo has a fishing line. He casts it, and however long you hold the cast button determines how far to the bottom of the screen the line goes, and then you have to time it with fishes going across, but you can't catch crabs because that'll hurt you. Oh, I mean, like in real life, crabs hurt you.
Don't catch crabs, kids. Don't catch crabs.
Don't catch crabs, kids. It's not great.
Dave's advice.
I'll give you crabs.
Not from any experience or anything. It's just a general knowledge type thing. That's all.
My wife and I have a great marriage. But no. So the one mini game though in the final boss, they did the same thing where it was like fishes and like crabs, but they were all underground. You couldn't see them.
You can't tell.
So I was like already down to like so little health, and I'm like, I want to make sure. Was there any visual indication that you could tell the difference between crabs and fish when they were fucking under the sand?
So this is like sort of like a classic sort of old school fishing type mechanic where you cast the line like you said, and there's different sort of like power to your cast, I guess, for how far you can throw it or something. Normally you can see, there's the red fish, there's the green crab, catch the red fish. That's the mini game. But in that boss one, they're all underwater, and all you see is like shadows, essentially. There's no difference. And I looked this up, and I was like, does one move differently? Is that how you can tell or whatever?
I thought it was movement stuff.
It's not, apparently. Apparently it is randomized. And that is, I mean, I'm sure, I don't know this for sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if certain ones are always a crab, certain ones are always a fish. Like you go through it a second time and they're always in the exact same place. I don't know that.
And I feel like it gives you more fish than crabs anyways.
It does, but the problem is
crabs. I got one fish and like 5 fucking crabs, and that cost me my life before I did the save state on the final boss. So then I had to go and do the whole goddamn thing over again. Fucking goddamn crap.
That is one of the points that I ended up playing this not on the actual GBA and stuff. That's one of the points where actually it could be the only point is that exact fishing spot where I was like, I have to use a save state because I have one hit left. One fucking hit left. So I make one mistake when it's like 50-50 chance essentially. How the fuck am I supposed like it's a stupid idea. That part specifically was so stupid.
Just imagine if that video game was in a 3D Banjo game.
Just imagine.
It's like the catfishing game.
Yeah.
It's probably better on mobile phone.
Oh yeah, there is a mobile version of
There's
this.
a mobile phone version of this.
Of this?
Probably,
I didn't know that. I didn't see that.
My guess is it's the same. My guess is it's the same game, but like N-Gage screen.
Yeah.
Sonic N.
I was gonna say I could totally.
It's very
that.
like moving a line, collect all the notes in a line. Like look it up. It's very interesting.
No thanks.
The fact that it exists is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Can I do that right now.
The other thing that's a little bit of a mini game, which I thought was a really dumb decision in my mind, is some of the honeycombs that you pick up are a mini game for how much health you have. And I thought that was
I thought
it was so stupid.
Was really dumb.
Like when you pick up one, okay, it gives you health. I get that. That's the way it is. When you pick up the one with a 2, it gives you 2. Okay, cool. That's not bad. But then there's one where there's a 10-second timer and it is randomized across your whole health bar. And sometimes you can lose health just because you happen to press A at the exact moment that you weren't quote unquote supposed to.
Yeah.
I thought that part of it was stupid. The other part where it's like, it gives you a couple at a time. Fine. Okay. Every once in a while, they give you a little extra health. Great. Why? And it stops the game. The whole game just stalls and waits.
I'll tell you
for
why.
You. Ugh.
I'll tell you why. It's a 2E mechanic that should not have been translated to this game.
I know. I forgot that was even a thing that it was in
2E?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in 2E.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, I totally forgot
it works
that.
in 2E though. It works in 2E because you know that it's a honeycomb that you can avoid if you don't want to do it. But it seems it's a lot faster. It's easier to land on that like max health thing. So if you're in a level where you're like losing health, it can really help you out. But it's like totally optional, right? I feel like in this one you need health all the time.
That's true.
Like, constantly.
Yeah, you are struggling a lot more with your health because there's a few points that I ran into, and I don't know, maybe it was just I couldn't quite figure it out, but some enemies knock off more health than others, and there's really no way to tell why. Maybe because they're like different elements or something. I don't know what the deal is, but I didn't love that either. And then all of a sudden I'm doing, I'm just scraping by to get by a stage that actually really shouldn't be that difficult, right? Just because of that. So, yeah,
they're also
I didn't really struggle until like the final boss, which is where it gets.
Yeah, I wouldn't say
it's unfair.
It is pretty unfair. Yeah, it is pretty unfair. I don't know if struggle is the right word or more just like an annoyance, I think is probably what it was.
See that. I mean, I could see that.
Yeah.
When you try to move as fast as possible and just go collect everything, right? And you have a game like what's it called? The level that's like the oil like spillage like harbor level.
In the
original?
It's
like spill something, right? No, not in the original. That's Rusty Bucket Bay. Yeah. Don't test my knowledge on that.
I was going to say.
I know that one.
Yeah.
I was like, no, this one. Spill Harbor? Maybe that's coming to mind. It's this level.
Yeah.
That he's like walking up to.
Yeah.
There's a section with
name.
bees.
Spiller's Harbor.
There's a section with bees.
Yeah.
Spiller's Harbor. There it is. And the bees take away 2 honeycomb per hit. And you want to just quickly like run through, hit the switch that you need to switch, and then there's a timer, and you got to run to these shock pad to jump up. But the bees are hyper aggressive, and they come at you so fast. You're intended to have the golden feathers at that point, right? And to like walk through them.
I definitely did not.
But who's gonna do that? I can make it, right?
Yeah,
but you run through, and they're just like super fast, like way too fast.
There's no way to avoid them. It's impossible.
So when Thrak said he 100%, I was like, God damn, he actually did, because this is the one. There's 2 jiggy pieces that I did not get, and that was one of them, because in order to get it, you have to get the invulnerability feather, go over, take out the bees. Once the bees are gone, then you're fine until you walk too far off screen.
Oh, I did it with them
too far
still
away
alive
from them, they
because I'm
respawn.
a sick person.
I did too.
So then
I did too.
you hit the switch, and then you have to sprint over to the gazebo to like have Kazooie, excuse me, do their long leg jump to get up top there, and then you have the switch again up there to that'll spawn the Jiggy, but then you have to get over to the spot fast enough.
Yes.
And I just couldn't get over to the spot fast enough, and I didn't feel like doing that same thing over and over and over again just for a
you gotta
Jiggy
do
that
it perfect.
I didn't need anyway because I was already ahead on the Jiggy count. So I just kind of like I just didn't care. At some point I just didn't care.
Well, that's fine. So what got me going with like doing things like that is I wasn't necessarily trying to 100% it because I mean, we'll talk about this when we actually talk about Banjo-Kazooie itself, but as of this recording, we have not talked about it yet. I tried to 100% that game, and I think I've said this on a previous episode already. Maybe it was the Rayman one when we were talking about it, where I was only off by like 4 or 5 notes, and I got everything.
Wood, baby.
Yeah, everything else in the game, and I was like, I can't. I don't have time to find this. It was in the final world, and I was like, there's 4 seasons to go through, all these changes, all this up and down. I was like, I can't do it. And this, it was a smaller game, and I'm like, I feel like I could pull it off. And again, I was only short by like 3 or 4 notes, and I was like, I don't know where the fuck any of these are, so I didn't do it. But I came so close. I had everything else, every other collectible I had in this game except for that. I missed. I have no idea. Yeah, I have no idea where.
100%ing this game is a tedious exercise that you should not have to do, and don't feel compelled.
Yeah,
I did it because I was like, by the time I beat the game, I didn't have that much left because I just just like to try to get everything I can. So I was like, let me just go find it. And I used to walk through because there was again a couple notes I was missing, like one Jiggy piece. So I got them, and I was like, sweet. And
But to really like hammer home and do it and stuff, you're right. It's not. You don't really have to, and you don't need it necessarily to beat the game, right? Like you just said, Josh, like you can get to the end doing, I don't know what it is, maybe probably 85% of the Jiggies probably get you there, and it's probably a similar number for the notes because the notes you need things for the moves that you have to give old man groundhog or whatever. So
old man hog.
Mazai.
Yeah. That's it. That's pretty much all you have to do. But you know what? For a game that I think could have been like honestly probably like a complete disaster. They could have really botched this. This could have been really messy, really ugly. Because on a handheld on a system that doesn't quite have what it needs to do what the original does, or both that came before it. This could be really half-assed. That could be something that's really slow, really mucky, doesn't include all the moves or very many of them at all because it's easier not to, and it's hard to get the sort of depth things going and the height and all those types of things. To me, I think it's still pretty impressive that they managed to pull it off, largely able to pull it off.
Well, honestly, I think the GBA is a console that has a lot of like surprisingly competent games like this.
Yes.
Because I think by the time the GBA came out, people viewed it as a portable Super Nintendo. So you could have those quality of games.
Even growing up, I thought it was that because I was like, oh, these are all the games I used to have for the SNES. Cool. Like.
Yeah, and also it's also a little bit more powerful as well because there's a lot of games that try to do 3D stuff with varying degrees of success. There's even PlayStation 1 ports on this thing that range in quality.
Wild.
Yeah, but yeah, I think the GBA was up for the task, and credit to the devs for making it work. Yeah, like
I think so.
It would have been interesting if it was like a side scroller, but if it was like a side scroller, it would probably just be more linear. Like, because a non-linear side scroller like this probably would have been kind of lame, So
well, and then we talk about like, oh, what's the expectations of nuts and bolts and stuff at this time, especially so close to when Tui and the original came out. I think if you just did a 2D side scroller of this franchise, it would be like, this is definitely not what I want. This is definitely not what I expected, and it's kind of disappointing. So they went for it, and I agree. Like you just said, it's impressive.
Yeah, there's a fantastic example of that exact scenario because Crash Bandicoot had 2D side scrollers on the GBA.
And they're fantastic.
I loved them. Yeah, like they're great.
But Crash is a more linear game than Banjo is. So it's able to get because if you think about it, the Crash trilogy on PS1, they're just 2D platformers with a different camera angle.
Yeah, that's really
someone made a joke a while ago that Crash Bandicoot is what Sonic should have been for a while. Like Crash Bandicoot is like a slowed down version of what Sonic 3D should have been. Not 3D adventure, but like if you think about it, like what Sonic, what like the 2D Sonic games thrive at, Crash Bandicoot kind of did first in 3D. Not before. Excuse me. Not before this 2D games. Obviously, I'm talking about. But so since Crash already did it, and then I don't know what they were trying to do with the 3D Sonic games. I'm not trying to take away from that. I know a lot of people love them, but like they are not anything like in terms of tone what 2D Sonic games are. Right? They're completely different. For better or worse, whether you love it or hate it, they are completely different.
Yeah, that's true.
3D Sonic, it went in a different direction, but I think it was trying to evolve the series and kind of give it its own identity.
This is not a criticism of any or by any stretch. It's literally, but if you think about like Crash, it's more of an observation that I can't even take credit for. I heard it on Retronauts, and I kind of agree with their take. Where if you just think about Crash Bandicoot, it just took 2D Sonic, moved the camera behind Sonic, and then there you go. That's and slowed it down. It's much slower than a Sonic game.
I was gonna say my only contention is that game does not really have an emphasis on speed, and it definitely wants you to collect things more, where Sonic isn't necessarily about collecting.
I think it's trying to be fast. I think it's trying to be a little bit fast.
To be fair, neither does 2D Sonic. 2D Sonic, the early levels have an emphasis on speed, but when you get farther into those games, you should not run fast.
Yeah.
You will be killed.
It's also hard to, in my opinion.
Well, it could just be my bias, but like I know those games so well, I can whip through them pretty quickly because they're trial and error. Like the more you play it and the more you learn the routes and everything, you have to earn the speed, which I think a lot of people forget about with Sonic because they just want to hit the boost button.
But it's hard to do
at that point. But you have to earn it.
Yeah.
But that's not about speed then.
It is about speed. You have to
about learning.
Yeah.
Speed is the reward. It's not about speed then.
But I think speed is better as a reward because if you just have speed without earning it, it doesn't feel as good. Then you have games like Sonic Forces.
I will say though that Sonic 1 definitely after Green Hill, like even going into Marble
Zone.
Marble Zone, you go in, it focuses more on the stop, push this box here. Like it is not focused on speed. It is focused on platforming and slight puzzle solving, not complicated puzzles, just simple puzzles. Sonic 2 and onward, a little more open, a little more emphasis on actually like going through loops. And like, if you look at like the levels themselves and the way they're laid out, like they focused more on what made Green Hill great in Sonic 2, like kind of the whole way through. So I feel like as you progress through the series, there's an emphasis on more speed than there was. And then you get Sonic R, which is just the culmination of everything.
I like the soundtrack.
Oh yeah, we go Supersonic Racing.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, I got us off on a tangent with the Sonic talk.
I mean, I could talk.
I agree with you.
I can talk Sonic all day, but I mean, Sonic 1. If the zones were like mixed around a little bit, you know, like if you didn't go from Green Hill to Marble,
right?
Like say you went Green Hill to Spring Yard or something, it would flow better. Like Sonic 1 has kind of a weird flow that they did fix in the later games. But
Is
Sonic 2 and Sonic 3
is Casino Night Zone in 2?
That's 2.
See, that one I also feel like is very slow. Not in a bad way. It's a fun level to play. Like I love that level. But there's so many things that'll just like bounce you back, or you get stuck in the pinball.
Stuck in the middle.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, they are platformers, just like anybody else. I think people, when they think of Sonic, they think of speed and want to treat it like a racing game.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, at the
end
of the day.
And that's also how they marketed it too, to be honest.
True.
Like,
but at the end of the day, they're fast-paced platformers.
Yeah.
You know, they're faster than Mario and they're more focused on like momentum and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, you'll still have to do jumping stuff and fight weird Robotnik bosses that suck, like the Casino Night one. And you know, it is what it is, man.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's fair.
And that ain't Banjo.
No, that's not. Yeah,
that's not Banjo.
No. Banjo is very slow paced.
Yeah, it's pretty slow paced.
Almost to a fault. Almost.
At points, At points, sure, yeah,
This
absolutely.
it's one of the gripes I have about this game too. It's not particularly the level design, and it might just be based on the limitations. We talked about the depth perception and everything,
Mm-hmm.
but the actual layout of these worlds I find frustrating to navigate.
Yeah,
Like,
Some of them
I-
definitely
it's-
are. Yeah.
There's only a handful of like definitive landmarks that you can really latch onto and be like, okay, this is where I am.
Yeah.
And it's just you have such a small view and perspective of the actual like entire area. I almost think this would be really cool if it was on PC and had like, like ultra wide support and you could just see everything. That'd be dope.
Yeah.
That's just me throwing
You
that
could
out
see a
there,
little bit
but
more.
It definitely feels like the level design is just trying to do what Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie did with the big 3D open worlds. But
Mhm.
yeah, as you said, it doesn't have the screen real estate to make it work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
they
exactly.
should
You
have
just get
done a better
lost a
job.
lot.
Yeah, or even maybe like a little mini map or something to help keep keep track.
Just
Yeah, 'cause
something,
there
even
are
like a
many-
simple mini map, like something that just had
Oh,
even
yeah.
just some sprites
'Cause-
on it, like just a
'cause
very
there's-
basic thing.
Yeah, because there's so many times in this game where you're running around and you're like, wait, am I here? I thought I was over there, and you get lost.
Yeah, especially with some of like the outdoor areas where, yes, depth is part of it, but also everything kind of looks the same on the ground, so it's a little bit difficult to figure out. We're watching sort of an indoor area, which I think was a little bit more defined, but that's, again, that would be with a lot of games.
I hated the area that we're in right now.
So did I, but it was, at least you knew which direction you needed to go, or at least I did.
I didn't.
I was okay with this
Maybe I'm just
particular
dumb.
part, but it was the only issue with this is that whole thing where I mentioned like you just lose so much health in this area because everything's on fire and the ground is on fire. There's lava, and it's like, okay, I get it. Can I just do something to get around that? It felt more difficult than it needed to be, only because if you made a small mistake, you're punished more than I thought you should be. Again, that's a platformer. There's an ice level, there's a lava level, there's like all those types of things. It's all there. It's just all part of it, right? The person who's playing this game right now that we're watching, it's definitely not my playthrough.
They're crazy good.
They're crazy good. They're dodging the fucking bees. Like, get out of here.
This is all they play.
Probably stitched together a lot of sections of it. A lot of these long plays, they'll stitch together their best. I'm not knocking it, but they'll stitch together.
That's true. Yeah,
their best things.
Or if you play multiple
just to
times.
keep it short.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know what's crazy, though we've been talking about it? A lot of the criticisms we have are like the similar ones I would have to Kirby and the Amazing Mirror on GBA.
Oh, okay.
Like,
I haven't played it, so I can't.
Yeah, I mean,
I have played it.
It's Kirby trying to be a Metroidvania. Like an amazing concept, but I think the execution was not great. And for a lot of the same reasons here, where like the map, it has a map system, but it's not great. And very often I was getting lost and be like, where the fuck do I have to go?
Yeah.
But
Fun fact for those who said they didn't play it, it is on Switch Online, I believe.
Oh,
Unless
Kirby
I'm
is?
wrong,
Oh,
but
okay.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Okay.
That
Kirby
specific game.
Kirby
Is
the
it on
Amazing
GBA?
Mirror, I think, is Grunty's Revenge is not. That'd
No.
be interesting if it was.
Yeah, it would be. It'd be a good.
Yeah,
good
Kirby.
game
That's
on
what I was talking.
there. Yeah.
Sure, why not? I mean, they're not putting anything else on GBA.
Yeah, I know. Honestly, Jesus, come on. Let's get to pilot in a second, but I want to make sure that we talk about the boss. So
Yeah.
we haven't gone into like a lot of the.
We'll just let Josh go.
We'll just let Josh go for it. We haven't gone into like a lot of
boiling
sort
in
of
my
like
chair.
the finite details of like whatever, but like honestly, it's a 2.5D ish Zelda. Just check out the game, you'll get an idea of what it looks like and stuff, and go like that. But the thing is with the boss is the final boss. I think it's taking ideas from the other games. I think that's what it's trying to do and mash them all. At least for me, it feels that way a little bit. And they're trying to mash it all together in this way too long of a sequence of a final boss battle that, okay, maybe give Grunty extra health, or
It has 5 stages.
that's what it is.
It is not needed. You don't need 5 stages for a 4-hour platformer.
It would be fine if it checkpointed you,
Yes.
but it doesn't
Yes.
checkpoint you.
And to Josh's point, the number one issue with it is every time you do fail and die, because you likely will at least once or twice, it's not like it brings you back to the beginning where you just walk into the door and, hey, let's start this over. You have to, You have to go to this area of Spiral Mountain. You have to have enough frozen eggs in order to put out fire that comes back. And then you have to go, I think it has a timer too, doesn't it? Where you have to get to the timer in order to jump to the area that has the walkway, the doorway to take you to the boss level. Why do you need to do that shit just to do the boss over and over and over again? Because you will need to do that. That part should not even be part of, like, it should not be an aspect of this. Do it once.
Does Banjo-Kazooie make you do this on N64?
No.
Okay.
There is an element in Banjo-Kazooie, the first game, that is similar to this boss with the quizzes.
Yes.
The Banjo-Kazooie.
Okay.
And
that's why I'm saying that's where it's getting the idea
I would argue
from.
even fans of that game are not a fan of the quizzes. I don't know about you, Jiggy. I can't say for all fans, but at least my perception of it, even people who like Banjo-Kazooie a lot, they're not necessarily a huge, I shouldn't say a huge fan of the quizzes, but to me, the quizzes are just not great game design because it doesn't test you on any mechanics that they've taught you. It tests you on your memory that you didn't know you were being tested on in the first place.
Sound effects and whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, like what sound does this thing come from? Like, I don't fucking know. Like, they all sound the goddamn same on an N64. I'm exaggerating, but yeah.
The first game's Furnace Fun, very unforgiving.
Yeah.
Like you have to get good. Didn't like that as much. I actually didn't mind Tui as just sort of like an ending game gimmick. It's not that bad. It's just kind of silly. There's also a lot more of like, what level is this? And it's something I actually started doing on my YouTube channel as like community posts, like texture challenges where I'm just like, what game is this from? Like, let's see if you guys can get it. And I'll just take like a random like screenshot from a game and like zoom in on something and like, it's kind of fun.
What pixel is this game from? Yeah.
Yeah. People, I'm amazed at some people, like how fast they get it. I'm like, how do you know this? They're like, Crash 2. It's this level. And I'm like, what the frick?
Like, I didn't even know that.
I zoomed in on the dirt texture. Like, this could be any insert PS1 title, like, ever. It's just crazy.
I don't mind the quiz stuff, mainly because I just, like, for me, I you guys were talking a little bit about the sound and stuff. I like the sound. I like the music. I'm okay with that.
Oh, the music I liked. I hated the sound effects for the voice specifically.
See, I'm totally fine with it. To me, it just brings me back. So I think the nostalgia hits me, even though I didn't play this specific game.
To what? Grating your ears on?
No, I just like it. I like hearing. I like
gibberish, but I play this on mute.
It's trying to be consistent with the other games in the series.
It is.
But I understand.
Like, and some are better than others.
Isn't as good.
Yeah, some of them are better than others. Like Grunty sounds pretty good. Banjo doesn't really sound like Banjo. It sounds really weird. Yeah, but even then, it I don't know. It's almost like he only has one sound, whereas normally, like Jiggy said earlier, they have a couple more cadences that you can kind of play with, and his is very, very monotone. If that's even how it would work when it's gibberish, but. I don't even know.
Monotone gibberish.
Monotone gibberish.
My new band name.
That's great. Yeah. So anyway, so back to the boss. So you do a version. You start with a version of a boss that you've played already up until this point, where there's a shield. You run around. I guess we didn't really get quite to the story that much, but Grunty is in a mecha suit and has all these like different abilities and stuff. Mecha Grunty. Too bad you didn't like also get large and like fight like over rooftops or something. That'd be sick.
If you want a brief synopsis,
yes.
Basically, Grunty's soul gets thrown into this mecha version of Grunty, and time travels back to the past to actually capture Kazooie and like stop doesn't want Banjo-Kazooie. Yeah. Doesn't want Banjo-Kazooie to be together. No, just kidnaps Kazooie, locks her up. So you actually have to spend the first part of this game rescuing Kazooie, and Mumbo uses his magic to send Banjo back in time to, save Kazooie, save all of time, I guess. I don't know. And it's a little like the time thing isn't really that important, honestly.
No.
So are you telling me Banjo is the hero of time?
Banjo is the true hero of time. Yes.
No, honestly, this sounds like Banjo's version of the Terminator.
Yeah. Oh,
it is sort of like the Terminator. Yeah.
The Banjo Terminator. Yeah. 100%.
Banjo is
Kyle Reese. Kazooie? I'm looking for Kazooie.
Come with me if you want to spring.
Come with me if you want to jiggy.
There it is.
It's super interesting too because it actually caused another issue with Mumbo, like being in the past.
Right.
In the original game, Mumbo's face is a skull because Grunty like was his student and transformed his face into a skull.
Into the skull. Yeah.
But in the past, his face is still a skull, so there's just kind of like an oversight. And then they're like, well, we never really capitalized on it anyway, so everyone just accepts that Mumbo just always looked like that. And then for some reason, we have Bottle's grandfather teaches us moves. For being a main person in the series, Bottles, like, his role gets diminished. Like,
he's not even in this.
Game.
He's basically he's not even anywhere close to being in this. Yeah.
Well, and Tooie too.
I'm sure Kazooie loves it.
Yeah,
right.
That's right. Yeah, I love that banter stuff. I love it. That's like one of my favorite parts of these games.
They took so much from Tooie in this game,
right?
And it feels like it needed to be scaled back significantly. It needed to be more like Kazooie, less like Tooie, but they just kept packing stuff in. It's like, just refine the gameplay that you have.
Right.
Stop adding mechanics, and it gets a little overwhelming. And in the boss fights in general, because there's even boss fights where you have to use like first person perspective and like
I forgot about
the target.
That. Yeah, that was.
Yeah, and
I found that pretty easy though. Like I got through it pretty quickly, but
it's padding. Like we said it earlier, it's padding. It's a lot of padding. This game is like, okay, we're short. We're gonna pad the game and we're gonna make things as difficult as possible, which is all I could think about with the last boss. I'm just like, let's just make this super difficult to make this game extend just a little bit longer.
Yeah. So my whole thing with the boss was that you end up using the save state, because even though I do have, this is the only one in the franchise where I just have the cartridge and not the box. This is the only one I cannot find it complete for a realistic price. So I'm just
game collecting amazing.
It's just fantastic, isn't it? It's the only series where I'm like, oh, I got to get everything, that and like some of the Donkey Kong stuff. But anyways, I ended up using like a save state for it because, and one of the reasons why is, yes, it's frustrating and pretty annoying, but I've connected my RetroArch to Retro Achievements. I don't know if Thrak, if you've used that at all. Yeah, it's great.
I love Retro Achievements.
Yeah, it's so good. I'm not usually an achievement hunter, trophy hunter person. I'm not, but when it comes to these, it's cool that it adds it to retro games. So I'm like, you know what? Every once in a while, I'm going to try to go for the extra stuff, which is one of the reasons why I tried to go for a couple more notes, a couple more jiggies, and things like that. One of the achievements in this is to beat the final stage of Grunty without getting hit. And
nice.
And I actually did not have a choice, because like I said earlier, I only had one hit left when I was doing the fishing minigame thing. And that happens just before you get to this point. So whether I had retro achievements or not, and whether I had save states or not, well, I guess I had to have save states. But where I saved it, I only had one honeycomb left. And I ended up beating that last part. Yes, trying multiple times, but I ended up beating that last part without getting hit. And I was like,
I think what's frustrating with the final boss is that the actual, like, when you're not in the quiz sections, I actually don't hate it. I actually think it's not like awful. Like even the final Grunty like showdown.
Yeah, that's
I don't think is unreasonable, and I don't think it's completely unfair. I actually think it's a pretty decent final boss. It's just that it's the gauntlet nature of it. All on one health bar, all on the fact that like they what a boss is supposed to be is it's supposed to test you on the mechanics that the game has taught you throughout your experience.
Yeah, up to that point.
Up to that point, right? The quiz is not a mechanic. Like there's no mechanics in the game that like are meant to like prepare you for this test. If they gave you quizzes leading up to this, almost like here's some stuff that like, what do you remember from this section you just played through? And then by the time you might be a little frustrated in that first section, so then you go to the second one, and then when you see it in the second area, you're like, oh, so this is just a thing that I'm going to have to do. Whether you like it or dislike it is up to you. But like if they continuously did that, so by the time you get to the final boss, you're like, well, I gotta be fucking prepared. I've taken 5 quizzes up to there. I better know my stuff about the trivia of this world. But they haven't. The game doesn't teach you any trivia mechanics, for lack of a better term. It's just it teaches you platforming mechanics and shooting mechanics.
I think they could have quizzes even in general in the game, but just leave it out of the final boss too. You know,
exactly.
Like
so when you get to the final boss, and like each section of the final boss is another test of something that you've done before.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a fan of the henchman turning invisible. I think they don't make him visible for long enough. I think that's a little not unfair, but it's not very fun because it's like I feel like I'm playing more guesswork than anything else.
you have to get to it pretty quickly.
He'll disappear. The dude will disappear. You'll see which direction he like as he's walking off. So you go to that direction and you attack, and then you miss him, and then he suddenly spawns and he's on the opposite side of the screen. So I felt like I was just getting lucky half the time and not actually like I didn't know how to infer his pattern because you can't see him. You see the direction anyway. But that's a minor gripe because I was able to beat it. But like those 3 sections, if it was just 3 phases of that, I would have been cool with it. I would have been. I'm annoyed that they do a section, a quiz, another like boss mechanic section, and then another quiz, an even longer one, and then the final one. Like I actually did not hate the actual segments of the boss that were the boss. It was just the quizzes, and then like you also said, Dave, the lead up to it to literally get to the boss by having to climb that tower every single time.
And the fact that you needed to have those eggs at the ready, which you might not.
And if you don't have any, they do have some that will spawn for you, but you only get 3 at a time, and 3 is not enough. So you have to get 3, run off screen in order to spawn it. I found a way to spawn it faster is just to go into the honeycomb hive and then come right back out. Because if I walked over to the honeycomb hive and walked back, they weren't always there. So I would just go into honeycomb hive.
It's just a stupid idea. The fact that you even have to do that is just dumb.
Yeah,
it's just dumb.
So that I think what's frustrating is that the boss itself is actually a really good boss for what they teach you throughout the game. It's just the stuff before and in the middle is the problem.
Yeah, the filler, like you said, the filler. So, okay, before we forget, I guess. I think this game's worth playing. Don't expect anything incredible, but there are little gripes and stuff that we've mentioned. But let's talk about Banjo Pilot, because I want to make sure that we're definitely covering some of this because no, because honestly, because especially
an hour and a half into recording.
Yeah, that's fine. It is what it is. But one of the reasons why is because I know that especially for me and Jiggy, we absolutely love Diddy Kong Racing. And think it's just a fantastic game. This would have been in Banjo Pilot, like was mentioned earlier, was supposed to be a sequel to that or spiritual successor or whatever it might have been called at the time. And just didn't happen for the various reasons like Microsoft and rights and all those types of things that we also mentioned. But it's a kart racer with a plane and, some depth and some, up and down mechanics and verticality and things like that. But it is very much a classic kart racer at heart. This game was something that completely passed me by. I don't know if I was done playing the GBA too much at the time. I don't know if I just didn't know it existed. I don't know what it was, but I never played this up until a couple years ago when I picked up this cartridge and played it, and I was like, oh my god, I got to get all the Banjo-Kazooie games, and I'm an idiot, so I got to go buy it, and I got to find it in the box, and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's overall, I think it's pretty good. Overall, I am enjoying and have enjoyed my time with it. But just like Grunty's Revenge, I don't think it's a home run for a lot of different reasons, but I like Banjo Pilot, and I like what I played with it. So, Jiggy, what about you? Did you played Grunty's Revenge? Did you play this growing up too?
Briefly.
Okay.
I did. Yeah. Oh, of course. It's Banjo. So I was like, oh. But
sorry, you were what?
This is this is not one that I liked.
Okay.
And I played it now, and I can see some like redeeming qualities. I guess I was really like, oh my gosh, this is Diddy Kong Racing on my Game Boy with Banjo. This is going to be fantastic. That's how I talked when I was like 10 or whatever.
You're fucking cool. I swore like a lot when I was young.
It was going to be really, really, really great, okay? And then it ended up being really, really, really mid. And I was
got some in your mouth?
Yeah.
Marshmallows.
It's interesting.
Marshmallows.
Chubby bunny.
Chubby buddy. Yeah, it's exactly. You, Dave,
Yes.
Did you love Mario Super Circuit?
I really we talked about I talked about on Josh's show.
Yeah.
I was gonna say you guessed
yeah.
it
I
on
was
my
trying to
show.
I was trying to remember.
Yeah.
I did listen, but
I don't think I loved it completely, but it's another game that I also had very little experience before coming on the show and talking about it. I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was one of the. I was pleasantly surprised. I actually was going to expect it wasn't going to be very good, and I had a pretty good time with it. If you want to compare the two, that game's probably better than this, in my opinion. But yeah, I had a pretty decent time with it.
I just I don't really like that game.
Okay.
And I don't really care about this game either, to be honest.
Okay.
And I think what does it for me is the going back to the depth perception we had in Grunty's Revenge, except this is like all about depth perception, like going forward, and the pop-in that you get for like items and things.
Yeah, that's a problem with this.
It's not bad. It's just it makes me feel like I can't perform as well unless I like go through and do a lap and I like recognize the track where it's going. Like I can't like see ahead, which most racing games, that's how I kind of play. I'm like, okay, this is coming up. I'm going to go up here. It's just like a weird like 2D trying to be 3D sort of thing, because I've got that with the original Mario Kart on Super Nintendo. It's kind of the same thing. I'm just not a huge fan of it, but I like F-Zero, so I don't know what that's about.
Right.
It's just a better game.
Yeah.
F-Zero's a great game. Yeah, there's no question.
It's not that I dislike this, but it's not something that I particularly would like to play. This is definitely my least favorite Banjo game out of all of them.
Okay, fair enough.
So
we'll talk about some of the details of how it differentiates itself and stuff too, because I think those are some of the reasons why I thought it was like, okay, at least it's doing interesting things. So Thrak, what about you, buddy?
Well, real quick, Mario Kart Super Circuit. Fun fact, it is the highest rated Mario Kart game on Metacritic.
Really?
Oh, shit. What?
It's at a 93. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is a 92.
Interesting.
So eat it. Super Circuit is perfectly fine. Banjo Pilot. I've known about this game for a while, but I never really played it because I'm just like, oh, it's probably just some stupid racing game. Who cares, right?
Yeah.
It's only been in like really since I've been podcasting with Bill, because he's really into racing, that I've been playing more racing games and have been getting more enjoyment out of them. So for this one, I was like, let's see what the big deal is. And yeah, it's weird. It's called a kart racing game, but you're flying.
Yeah.
Shouldn't it be a prop plane? Yeah, like the kart.
I think
kart equivalent would be a prop plane.
Prop plane. Yeah, I think that the reason why it's that is because you're cartoony characters and you're picking up items and you're shooting them at other players. Yeah. That's it. That's a kart racer. That's the definition of that. So, but yeah, you're right. It is a prop plane. You're right.
And there are actually some pretty good and interesting racing games on the GBA.
Yeah.
This isn't one of them. This is like the pop in can be an issue, but like the track designs are so basic and
flat, similar.
And like
you don't like trapezoids?
I like trapezoids. I just don't.
What's your favorite shape?
What's your
I have to think about it and get back
on a 2D plane, not on a 3D plane, on a 2D plane.
Yeah, this is strictly 2D.
I like the hexagon.
There you go.
Hexagon's that's a healthy shape. That's a good one.
Yeah, a naturally occurring shape too.
Ooh,
but yeah, like the track design is very plain. Like the items they give you, all I really saw, it was either you could spit out like an ice cube behind you, or you could just shoot a fireball in front, or like a UFO. And that was really, that was
the
really
UFO thing is weird.
And it's like the game tries to have rubber banding, but it doesn't really work, because there'll be times where I get swamped with like I'll be in first and I'll just get hit with a bunch of items and go back to like sixth, and then I just do like a lap and then I'm back in like second again, and I
hit like 2
items. Bungee jumping versus rubber banding.
There you go.
It's
slingshotting.
It's really weird. Like it feels like the game is trying to be difficult, but it's like super fucking easy.
Yeah, it's not that hard. Yeah, it's not that
hard. Yeah. And you have like, you can hold R to do a sharper turn, but like I never really needed it. Because you handle pretty, like it controls perfectly fine. Yeah. Like your handling is solid. You don't skid or anything weird like that.
And to your point, the tracks, because they're not super difficult, you don't need to worry about those tight turns as much as you would in something like Diddy Kong Racing that has that as well.
Or an F-Zero even.
Or F-Zero, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, the only interesting thing is you can adjust your height, which say for like when you go through the speed boost, if you're not the right height, you could miss it. Or if you're trying to get the music notes, you could miss them if you're not high or low enough off the ground. But that's really about it. This feels like a vertical slice for what a banjo racing game would be on GBA. Like it doesn't feel fully formed. They're like, it needs
like a
more
prototype.
interesting. Yeah, it needs more interesting level design, or it needs something more, and it just doesn't have it. But they're like, let's just get this out of here because we gotta make Cameo or something stupid. So let's just get this out the door. We can move on to that. So it's okay. Like I played it for a couple hours. I don't feel like I wasted my time, but I don't feel like I gained anything.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Like if you want to play a really cool kart racing game on GBA, I'd recommend Konami Crazy Racers. That game is really good.
Okay, I didn't even know that was
like really good track design. It's Konami, so I think it has like Dracula and I think Gray Fox is in it. But it has really good track design. It controls better than Super Circuit. I like how it looks.
Yeah,
that's a really cool game that y'all should check out.
So you're telling me it has more than just trapezoids?
Oh yeah, it's got all kinds of shapes. I think there's a figure 8 in there too.
Ooh, oh my god,
fancy!
Don't go crazy now.
I know. I think we were just looking for straight corners in here. Jeez.
Keep talking. Josh, turn my camera off.
Yeah. Josh, you weren't able to get your time with this and stuff. Was it ever anything that you were interested in at all, or is it kind of just
no,
not really? Yeah.
No, so I am not a racing game fan in the slightest.
Right.
The only racing game I've ever enjoyed in my life is a PS1 snowmobile racing game called Sledstorm. Really, really like that.
Whoa.
That sounds
It's
cool.
really good. It's really
that.
good. It's
Yeah.
really good. I love it.
PS1 racing games are an interesting breed.
Yeah. So what I will say is this, I think Thrak, you're right on the money with this, where it just needed something more. And the reason I say that, I have no idea how it controls, how it handles, because like I said, I didn't play it. But I've been watching literally videos leading up to this, and so all my experiences with just how this game presents visually, right?
Right.
I don't even know what the sound is right now because I've had it muted now for a little bit.
Let's see.
Well, why would you do that to me? No, so the thing is, the reason why I say it needs more, I think one thing it actually does really well. I actually think the character sprites are really good. They clearly did a lot of animation work on them because they'll flip and tumble and turn, and they feel fully realized when you see that. Where the game really kind of fails and falters is not even just the layout of the track design, it's the visuals of the track design, because it's almost like if you look at the backgrounds of every single thing, it's like they took a panoramic shot and it just pans left and right depending on how you turn the cart. It feels really weird and it doesn't feel fully natural. It feels like a really poorly done skybox, right? And it doesn't quite
Skybox,
work
nice. That's yeah.
There's a lot of those on the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah.
Poorly done skyboxes. Yeah.
Yes.
And believe it, I mean, actually, I think one of the most interesting things about the GBA, this is a very quick side tangent that I don't have much to say on because I haven't played them all. The GBA has a bizarre amount of first-person shooters, which I always found super odd. Like Medal of Honor Underground, Dave and this is coming out in what, May, right, Dave?
So we'll probably everyone will probably hear that episode.
So our episode for Punch Nazi Month will be out by then. So Dave joined me for Punch Nazi Month to talk about Medal of Honor Underground, but for the PS1. It had a GBA version, and it's very weird to see.
It's very bad. Like I could do a whole thing on like all the PS1 ports to GBA.
Right.
That one, from my experience, is the worst one by far.
Wow.
It is terrible.
And this is obviously not 3D, but it's got like, the Mode 7 style. I don't know if Mode 7 was on the GBA or not, but that was, the Super Nintendo equivalent. This feels like a poor version of that. And I think mainly because of the art direction, not because of any technical issues. It's just the art direction really felt like they could have just done a little bit more to mask maybe the jankiness of the background visuals. I also think just in general, the idea of making everything fly is actually kind of dumb, not because a flying racing game is bad, but there's so many portions where it's like they won't let you fly over the lava because that's a spot where you couldn't drive over with a car. I'm like, but I'm not in a car. I'm in a plane. I could just fly right over this.
Yeah.
You might as well just put columns of flames above me, like there, so that way I know
spewing out of the ground.
Can't fly through that.
Yeah.
Or like if you're flying over, like we joked about at the beginning of the episode, if you fly over grass, all of a sudden you see the plane start shaking because it's going through turbulence because the grass is just so grassy. It's too green. Just silly. It's blinding my eyes, Sarge. It's just Sarge. There's just
that classic Banjo-Kazooie character, Sarge.
Banjo-Kazooie, Sarge's War.
I've seen so many Jiggies fall.
Not today, soldier.
Getting into Conquer territory here.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
none of them made it back to the frame.
I've been Conquer. Don't get me started.
But no, I think that's really where this game falters is it's just its visual presentation, because while the characters look really solid, especially for a GBA title, the worlds feel really kind of like underbaked. Or the tracks, feel very underbaked. I will give them credit for trying like a weird boss type of thing at the end of each. From what I saw, there's like 4 races in each cup, and then there's like a boss race. And I'm watching the boss races, and it seems not my favorite type of thing, but that also just feels like a bit of preference. It's like it seems like you take turns, like you'd have a turn shooting at the boss, and then you have a turn dodging from the boss.
Yeah,
and you have health bars and that kind of stuff. It's an interesting idea. Like I don't think it's a completely it's not a game devoid of any unique ideas. I just think there's a lot of elements where it's like, well, you could have put this in the oven a little bit longer. And I think there's like, the ingredients in this game, I think you could have made a really nice cake, but you just let it stay you just didn't leave it in the oven long enough. And that's kind of like, or maybe you left it in too long. Who knows?
Yeah. I think that's part of
this is the definition of a half-baked game. You know, like when you bite into like a piece of bread and it's a little bit doughy in the middle. Like that's the equivalent of this game.
Gotcha.
I hope I don't get an upset stomach after this.
Yeah. the whole boss race thing, that's in Diddy Kong Racing, isn't it?
Well, so that's the thing is like the a couple of things that are from that, and obviously, like we said, this was supposed to be Diddy Kong Pilot, so I think they kept that because they needed to change for rights issues, and also it was Pilot initially in that version because that was one of the unique ways that you drove around and raced in Diddy Kong Racing. So they're like, well, we should do that. That'll differentiate us from a Mario Kart or from a Sonic one or Crash or whatever was out at the time, right? So I think that's why they went that way. And then, yes, Diddy Kong Racing has the boss races, which I really enjoy, but are also very difficult. In this, they're not that hard. So I like that they tried to do something different. Like, do I think they're incredible? No. I think some of them are kind of weird, too. Like, you face Bottles at one point, and he's, like, pooping out, like, lightning bolts or something for some reason. I'm like, what? What does this have to do with anything?
Oh, you said Bottles. I thought you said Balls. I'm like, who's Balls?
It's Bottles' cousin, little cousin.
Meet my cousin Balls.
Cousin Balls.
Hey, stay away from.
Instead of the glasses up here, he has them down below his waist.
Bottles is like we see the most extended family of Bottles in the Banjo series. It's crazy. He's got a wife. He's got several kids.
Yep.
He's got his brother Jam Jars, who was in the military. His ancestor we just learned about in Grunty's Revenge. Like, he's all over the place.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to know Bottles fucks.
Oh, isn't it very reassuring? It's very reassuring.
Bottles giving him.
If he can do it, anybody can.
If he can do spending all that time in the ground and he can still get it done. Come on. I think, you know what? I feel like I'm the only one who kind of liked this game. I don't know.
I didn't hate it.
I can't really have an opinion on it. I'm basing my, like, it's literally all my opinion is based purely off of the visuals, not off of how it controls
not like
or
the
plays.
feel of it or whatever. I think that
it's definitely.
Go ahead.
it's definitely a game that if I had it as a kid, I would have played it a bunch and probably had a fondness for it.
Sure.
You know, because it's very simple and all that. It's just I don't know. I don't even want to say my racing game taste is sophisticated, but like I play a lot of Forza Horizon. So going from that to this is like, you know, but it was perfectly fine. But it makes me wonder if this was Diddy Kong Pilot and this was like in theory the same game but Diddy Kong, would it be better or would it be worse? I think the expectation would be different.
Expectation could be a bit different, which is why I sort of mentioned like the pilot, like the plane thing and the boss. You're kind of like, oh yeah, that's what I expect from this game. I don't know, because it's not going to feel any different, you know. Like if it was,
and it feels fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I think it's okay. I think I have some problems with sort of how they manage the speed when you hit boosts and things. But I think what I give the most credit to is those ideas that it has. So the boss races or battles, you can even call them, are at least something different. I don't think they're incredible, but at least there's something different. And then if you go deeper into this one, I think there's actually a decent amount of races in this, more than I thought there would be. And then there's these things. I don't know if you guys got to this where, when you collect enough pages for, is it Cheeto? Is that what it's called?
Cheeto, yeah.
Cheeto, who's like the sort of like encyclopedia for the franchise that has information.
Which is Spellbook.
Which is what?
Which is Spellbook.
Which is Spellbook. That's what it is. I always see it as
Dave,
like
I think Dave, I think the Banjo Encyclopedia is here in the call with us right now.
I'm sorry. My mistake. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Sorry.
No,
don't
that's
apologize.
Exactly. What are you talking about? Yeah.
I love it.
So like when you do that and when you win races or when you do time trials or whatever, you get pages that you can go to Cheeto and unlock characters or battle races or these things. What are those called, Jiggy? Encyclopedia. What are those called? The little sort of like devil looking guys. Shit.
The Grublins?
Yes, those. So you can go to Cheeto and get and unlock those, and what happens is they show up on certain races. No,
Globos.
Globos, is that what it is? Yeah.
Globos,
so when you pick up one of those, similar to when you pick up one of the notes or the jiggies in it, a different boost thing pops up in the level, and when you go through it, it gives you, or at least most of them, you go through it, it gives you like super speed, and it steers for you for almost an entire lap. And it's kind of a cool idea because you kind of have to unlock it. First of all, you have to notice that it's in the stage, which sometimes can be tricky with the way things pop in. And then you have to go and get yourself to that boost in that same lap. And it gives you this massive lead. Then it does try to do the rubber banding. You usually don't really have too much of an issue, but suddenly they're right behind you. And then the race kind of continues. But if it is something that you get in the second or third lap, it makes a huge difference. That's at least a cool idea. The execution of it is hit and miss because of the way that they handle speed and depth and height and things like that. So I think that's kind of the problem with it. But the idea of it, I enjoyed and thought it was kind of cool. It was one of those things where I looked up to be like, what the fuck was that thing I just saw? Like, what is that? I couldn't quite tell because it was kind of muddy and in the corner and I was zooming right past it. But I give it a little extra, kudos for trying to do something a little bit different.
This it's just I want this to be Diddy Kong Racing 2. Yeah. And in my mind, like, Banjo focused Diddy Kong Racing 2 sounds even cooler to me. I was like, but it's got some things, like even the whole like ready, go at the beginning is totally Diddy Kong Racing.
Yes. Like
there's so many elements of it that I want to like so much. And then the actual gameplay is just pretty bland for me. It just doesn't do anything special. I did play as a few different characters. I can't say that I mean, it's basically like if I hit boost, I was winning. So
yeah,
I don't feel like anyone particularly gave me an advantage. I played as Kazooie a lot.
So did I, actually.
I never finished below first place.
Yeah.
It was hard to, especially in the early ones. It's difficult to not win. Yeah. Because you hit a couple boosts. Like let's say there's 2 boosts in the entire lap on some of the early ones, which is pretty minimal, you'll be fine. You'll probably win. If you make a couple mistakes, maybe you'll probably still come top 3. And they're pretty generous with the items they give you with the pickups, which there are a lot of the time in kart racers or prop plane racers. Easy for me to say.
Prop plane flyers.
Yeah, exactly. So they want you to win. I think it's definitely more forgiving than like, Super Circuit or the Mario Kart games and stuff.
You can tell this is made for a very young audience.
Yes, you can. There's not a ton of depth to it other than like, hey, collect the pages, unlock stuff, and you'll get new characters.
It's a collectathon.
Listen, I did like that element of it. Collecting the notes on the track, like looking for them.
Do you know what the notes did?
I like
that's
that.
a neat idea.
I had to look up what they did.
What do they do?
Don't they unlock the...
They give you the more notes you don't have to collect them all. I thought it was one of those things where it's like, oh, collect all the, whatever, and then you get, maybe it was coins. I thought maybe to give you more speed or something like that. It's not. So the more notes you collect, even if you collect just one, it multiplies how many pages you get at the end of the race.
Okay.
Which I was like, okay, that's also kind of an interesting way of doing it. The speed and stuff is sort of a Mario Kart thing, right? So
do you get pages if you don't get the notes?
Yes, you do.
Because I never didn't get all the notes because that's what I spent most of my time doing. I was like, there's a note. Oh, no, I'm gonna get it next lap. Like the first lap was just like, I'm just gonna look for all the notes.
Yeah.
And the second lap was get all the notes, and then the third lap was hit every boost and win.
Yeah, that's pretty much the loop. And then they have the Jiggy Challenge thing. I don't know if you guys tried that. That's essentially like in Diddy Kong Racing, where you have to collect. What's it called? What do you have to collect in Diddy Kong? Now I'm blanking. You have to go around the lap. Oh, the silver coins.
Silver coins.
To collect the silver. There's 4 or 5 jiggies around it. It completes a little picture in the corner, and then you complete the race. But this is only 1-on-1, so it's not as hectic and crazy. So as long as you hit a boost and you collect the jiggies in like 1.5 laps, you'll probably be fine.
You know what? You know what also is really annoying? We go through all these different banjo stages.
Yeah.
And none of the music is from Banjo-Kazooie. It's all like original, like, which doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. But when you're going in like Treasure Trove Cove or Gobi's Valley, like tracks that hit super hard, I would have loved to have just like,
let's see. Let's listen to this one.
A GBA-ified version of those tracks.
I wonder if they couldn't though because Nintendo owned the copyright to. Well, I guess Rare.
Rare owns Banjo.
Rare owns Banjo, yeah.
But I don't know. But who would have the rights to the music specifically? Could have been different. I don't know.
But they didn't own. But like they owned the rights to Banjo even on the N64. They were independent of Nintendo.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just that when they
they were a second party developer. Nintendo had a minority stake so that they would publish their stuff.
Yes.
And had publishing rights. But I'm pretty sure when Microsoft bought Rare, they got all those publishing rights.
Yes, that's right.
So that's why like Banjo-Kazooie got those 360 remasters.
Yeah, and Rare Replay is only on Xbox and like things like exactly.
Yeah, so that is kind of weird that they didn't put any of the tracks from any of the Banjo game or like the tracks in there because like they should have had the rights to it.
Some of the stages have like hints of it, but it's definitely not the song, which I think to Jiggy's point would actually add a lot to it because it would give you that feeling, even if like the sound isn't great or even if like the characters don't make the noises and sounds and tracks, like at least that is there. And even if it doesn't look or feel like it based on like the visuals, music is a huge part of what Rare does in their games and all their really good games. Like Donkey Kong series is a perfect example, even stuff like Killer Instinct, like great music, and obviously GoldenEye is a big part of that. But like, if you don't have that, you lose a lot of character. And that's a huge part of what they do because it's very cartoony. Music and sound is a huge part of cartoons in general. You have to have some of it, I think.
The only thing I could guess is either maybe Grant Kirkhope didn't want them to use the tunes, or maybe they tried to GBAify the songs and they didn't like how they sounded. So they just made new compositions for them,
leading to the half-baked theory that we have. We have, where
these compositions are a little doughy in the middle.
Yeah, a little too dough, a little too much.
Or
dough.
maybe because this transition from Diddy Kong Pilot, maybe it was like it was never intended. Like to just
Maybe
piggyback
they
off
didn't
the
have
half-baked
time
thing.
to
They
do
didn't have
Yeah.
time to do it, and they're
Yeah.
just like,
Well,
all
they
right,
basically
well,
had-
Maybe these tunes are what would have been in Diddy Kong Pilot.
Yeah.
So like
that's-
you asked before, Dave, do we think this game would have been better if it had the Diddy Kong license? If I don't think it's necessarily a question you can answer. Like if you took it directly and just put Diddy Kong and Donkey Kong characters in this, no, it would not have made it better.
No.
Just because you still have nostalgic attachment to the Banjo characters, just like you do to Donkey Kong characters, and it didn't save it, right?
Yeah.
Now, what I do think, though, the reason why I don't think you can actually really genuinely answer that is that if this game, like you said, Jiggy, was meant to be a Diddy Kong racing game that they had to switch over midway through development or at some point in
Very
development.
late,
So, like,
actually. They only had about just over a year to switch this over, or under a year
So,
to
like,
switch this over,
what
which is
are-
nothing.
so
Yeah,
like
for
I
GBA,
think,
that's not bad.
Doesn't it?
But I
Doesn't
think
maybe it's not
having-
bad, but it doesn't sound like much.
True.
but I feel like the grading this game on that isn't necessarily like you're not going to be able to. You genuinely, excuse me, won't know because you don't know what constraints they were placed unless they can tell you specifically
Yeah.
what constraints they ended up getting placed on because of the chaos of the being bought out by Microsoft, and now all of a sudden you're switching publishers. Like, who knows what THQ made them do? Like, if anything, because even though they were owned by Microsoft, THQ was publishing this because Microsoft wasn't going to publish on the Game Boy or the GBA, or if Nintendo would even let them. Like, who knows? Like, because they're a competitor, right? So who
Right.
knows if they had to do some weird stuff with it, kind of like in the same vein of like how Konami circumvented the NES's like 5-game-a-year limit by creating ultra games or whatever it is.
Yep.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
there's weird shit like that, like just on the NES. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was something weird that happened here. So like, I feel like this game, yeah, it's half baked from like, once again, from my outsider's perspective, but I feel like it looks pretty half baked. But I honestly, it feels like just because of the what I would assume would have been a chaotic, development period between all the business stuff behind the scenes and then having to reconcile all that in a game in under a year while still trying to figure out the fallout from like how long do you think they had to hold on developing the game even after the sale, right? Like, if it happened like a year before it was released, if the sale happened a year before this game came out, like, does that mean they were actively working for the full year, or were they in a holding pattern until they could figure out rights?
So the game was in development for 5 years. It was
5 years,
first
yeah, it
announced
was-
in 2001.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Microsoft sale was what, 2002?
2002.
I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Oh, so
It
it,
could've
only
been-
happened a year into development. They had 4 extra years.
yeah, basically. So
Yeah,
it could have been a case
I
of
got
they.
that flipped.
Well, and
That
think about it,
confirms
they were
my
also
theory.
working on Grunty's
Mhm.
Revenge because that came out before this
Before.
as well. So
Yeah.
you know,
That
maybe
throws my theory
it
out
could have been a
then,
case
but-
of they were just juggling a bunch of products, and Microsoft was like not sure which ones to prioritize.
They were also porting all the Donkey Kong games to GBA at the same time too.
Yes.
Like that
Good
was a big
ports.
thing. They are. Yeah. They're great.
So I just saw this on take it for a grain of salt on the Wikipedia entry for it.
Yes.
But it says the soundtrack was composed by Robin Beanland of Rare fame and Jamie Hughes, and it was unaltered as Rare was unable to implement new music
Yeah. Okay.
by the
So
time
there
of release.
Yeah. So
So-
there you go.
No,
That's-
I believe that.
Throw back to that.
Yeah. It makes sense.
Because they're credited in the game, and if you go to the Moby Games for Banjo Pilot, they're right there. So
Yeah. One of the interesting things too that I don't know. Which one of you guys mentioned using the accelerometer tiltometer thing for the GBA a little while ago earlier in the
Oh,
episode?
for WarioWare Twisted.
That's what it was. So
Yeah, it has a gyroscope in it.
gyroscope. That's it. So Diddy Kong Pilot was also supposed to have that. That was supposed to be one of the ways that they were trying to
That would
make
have been cool.
Could have been kind of
would've liked
cool.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like there's something about using the D-pad on the GBA because this is the one that I played on the GBA and not on with my Xbox controller. Essentially, is what I play Grunty's Revenge with. I mean, it's just a D-pad, so whatever. But the D-pad almost really throws you around the screen a lot more. And on a pretty small screen as well. So I felt like that is part of the issue that this game ran into. If you could tilt it, depending on how accurate it was, I think maybe that would have actually helped with some of the control. say what you will about the excessive motion controls in some games for Wii or Wii U that may or may not have worked, but in this, I don't know. I haven't played one of those on the GBA before because there's very few of them. There's a Kirby game I think as well that has it.
Kirby Tilt and Tumble. You're giving me mad flashbacks to Kirby Tilt and Tumble. Because when I did play that on my GBA SP, okay, once we transitioned from single screen, not a flip, okay, right. But when you have a game like Kirby Tilt and Tumble, where there's a mechanic of launching Kirby in the air by going like this, what happens?
Smack.
The screen flips. The screen flips.
I think you're going to say you hit yourself in the face.
You flip it back and forth. You're like really working that hinge. It's like, and it didn't fix it. DS, same thing.
Same thing.
Like I'm not a huge gyro fan.
What's cool with Tilt and Tumble on the NSO version, you can use the gyroscope to control it.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. It. Oh, I should try that then.
Like remember,
it's worth playing it that way. Yeah,
and then I turned it off.
I think even if you do the Joy-Cons and the little grips, you can do it that way. Even
that's
with the
cool.
Pro controller.
That's fun. That's good.
Yeah, it's a fun game.
Yeah, I like those. I like how Kirby does a lot of different stuff. So I'm happy.
Kirby handles gimmicks really well.
Yes, that's what Kirby has really actually turned into. Is that. That's really what it should kind of be known for in a lot of ways.
But if you see like Forgotten Land, they can still make a really good
oh my god,
solid Kirby game.
I just played that 2 months ago at a friend's place. He got it for his son who just got a Switch. Like his first game system is a Switch, and he's like 8 years old or whatever. There you go, Tilt and Tumble.
It's also like the coolest game cartridge ever.
Yeah, it's nice looking. And man, I love it. Forgotten World is fucking good. Holy shit!
It's my favorite. It's my favorite Kirby game.
I got it. You know what? When or if let's be honest, when I get a Switch 2, that's going to be one of the games that I want to get for it. Like I'm just going to play it on that. But man, it was fun. I played it on it. We were passing the controller around, like, oh, your turn, my turn, whatever, for like an hour, and I'm like, this is fantastic. This is really.
I 100%ed it, and it was worth it.
Yeah, it's a
great time.
It looks great. So, Banjo Pilot, give it a shot if you want. I don't know if you're going to really get more than a couple hours out of it, but if you want to play something like this, you can easily just go to the 64 and play that instead. Or there's other racers, as we've discussed on the GBA, that, they're not prop planes. But they're probably better than this.
Yeah. If you play this game for half an hour, you'll be good.
Yeah.
You'll get the gist of it. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
I was gonna say, listen, we got here. We haven't talked about the GBA very often, so this obviously it's an N64 podcast. But the fact we're talking about the GBA, so we went on these little side tangents, okay, to talk about different games we like, different mechanics, different things, like all about the GBA, like fantastic.
Yeah.
But I think that speaks to the quality of these two games, that we went on these tangents talking about other games we liked more or different mechanics we liked more. We're like, these games were almost something we liked. At least Grunty's Revenge was a little more positive. But there's something there, but we definitely think there's a lot better titles on the Game Boy Advance. I don't know. That's what I'm getting from this.
I think so. It's part of it.
I think it's like, if this represents like the middle of the road for the GBA, that means you have so much more great stuff to go off on. Like, it has a really deep library of games, and a lot of, when I was like exploring it and playing all these random games, like so many of them surprised me at how well they were made and just how fun they were. Because it felt like by this point, most people had figured out how to do 2D games and make 2D games that were really great. And the GBA is just jam-packed with amazing games.
Huge library. And also, I went from, having the original Game Boy to the Color to this, all my games played on it. And like as a kid,
that's cool.
That was awesome. And I also loved, like, I played, the first Wario game a ton growing up. I love that game so much. Is it amazing now? No, but I have a lot of nostalgia for it. Little things where you could just like switch the color palette or shades or whatever they call them on it. I had a couple favorites that I always went to, like that kind of stuff. It's just cool to have that option. I
have a lot of respect for the Wario Land series.
Yeah. The first two I played a lot.
It's Nintendo being unique and actually genuinely experimenting, which is something that they do less and less of the further we get into them, you know.
Absolutely. Around that
And
time
and
is when they
Wario
were
Land
doing
4 and Wario Land 4 is one of the best
it's
platformers
fantastic
on that console. So
yeah, it's really good. Yeah, and they're doing something weird, which, like you said, is not something they're really known for at this moment anyway, right now. So.
Especially as weird as like Wario Land.
Yeah,
like some of the things they do in those games feels very un-Nintendo.
And it gets weirder as they go along, I think.
Yeah.
You know, like they really do kind of go crazy with it.
Yeah. And after trying to play, say, Super Mario Brothers Wonder and being kind of underwhelmed by it, I'm like, Nintendo should just go back to Wario Land. Like, let them do that wacky crap.
They should
again.
anyways. Whether that game was a huge hit and people loved it or not, like Wonder or whatever it is, I think they should make another Wario game for sure.
Yeah, too many WarioWares.
I know.
We've had enough WarioWare. I want Wario Land.
Yeah, 100%.
I miss those.
Yeah, and 2D. Make it 2D just like Wonder was. I'm all for that.
Or Wario World 2.
Oh, yeah.
I've talked about Wario World before. I'm not going to talk about it again. It's a fine game, but it's its own beast.
Wario himself and those games themselves are their own beasts, and that's why we want to see more. Okay, so
where's the Waluigi game?
Oh my God! Maybe that's what
Waluigi's
we're sitting here just a couple days before the Switch 2 announcement. This will be coming out far after that, but maybe there'll be a Waluigi game. Ooh, never mind, Mario.
Waluigi pinball.
That'd be a crazy...
Just do Waluigi pinball,
dude.
Why not?
Do it. Do it. Pokemon pinball games.
Either that, or we get a GTA clone with Waluigi.
Yes,
which is all I've ever wanted.
It's all any of us really need.
It's GTA 6, but you're Waluigi.
But you're Waluigi. They beat Rockstar to it.
Thank God.
Okay, so before we get out of here, Josh, we'll start with you first. Where can everybody find Still Loading? And this will, I know we're doing this a lot earlier than it's actually coming out, but April and May, what's on tap if you do know that far ahead?
Actually, yeah, I do know. I planned out my stuff way too far in advance.
What's
April is Punch a Nazi month over at Still Loading for no topical reason whatsoever. We got games being covered or were covered by the time this comes out. Wolfenstein 3D, Medal of Honor Underground with Dave over here, Dave Truly over here, and then wrapping it up with Bionic Commando. Let's see, what else do I have? I think that's pretty much the big thing that I had going on at the time in April. And also, depending on when this comes out, Thrak's co-host over at the 3DO Experience, Bill, is going to be on to talk about Infamous.
Oh, nice.
Shout out, Bill.
Nice. And then March was
the hardest working man in podcasting is Bill.
Honestly, holy, no kidding. Like making us all look bad. But in a good way.
I asked to help all the time, and he's like, "I'm good." I try.
And that's the Still Loading podcast. You can find it all across your podcast feeds and everything.
At Still Loading Pod on most social media, most active on Blue Sky and Instagram, more on Blue Sky. And at Still Loading Pod at all those locations. Also, just because I don't normally shout this out because it is like money thing, but just because I've been really enjoying it, I do on my Patreon at the $5 level, I have a monthly movie podcast, which I do some Still Loading pun based off whatever movie series I'm covering. Right now, it's the Fast and Furious franchise, so it's still family. So it's all the guests who join me aren't just friends, they're family. We're going through all the Fast and Furious movies, and I think if this is out in May, then the movie that we'll be covering in May is the 6th one. So we're already over halfway through the series by the time, about halfway through the series.
That one's Fast 6, right? That's when they started
it's
doing half the title.
No, Fast 5, Fast and Furious 6, Furious 7.
That's right.
The Fate of the Furious is the 8th one. The Fate of the Furious is the.
Oh God!
They pulled it off there, but they didn't pull it off with. Anyways, yeah.
I'm waiting for Fast and Furious. I'm waiting for Fast and Furious 2 Turbo HD Ultra Mix, the new Challengers.
I mean, it would be Fast and Furious Presents because that's what Hobbs and Shaw is, the offshoot one.
Right.
Fast and Furious Presents. That's the title. Fast and Furious Presents Hobbs and Shaw. And then the final one is Fast X for the 10th one. And obviously there's a part 2 coming out later on.
Do they still focus on cars, or are they just generic action movies now?
They are car...
Weren't they always, though?
So here's
Other
the
than
No,
the
the
first-
early ones do focus on car culture.
The first
The first like
here's the
3.
weird-
yeah.
Here's the
Tokyo
weird
Drift
thing,
and
Thrak.
stuff. Yeah.
The answer
Tokyo
to
Drift's
both
great.
of those
Yeah.
questions is yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because does it focus on cars? Yes. Is it car culture? Not so much anymore. More as cars as an extension of their bodies.
Okay.
The
Like
the
Transformers.
prime example of this, without going too far into the weeds, in Furious 7, there is a scene where one of the characters is like launched off, like they got launched off of a, like I forget exactly how, but they fly out of the car they're on, and they're about to go off over a cliffside, right? Luckily one of their friends is right behind them in their own car, and instead of like stopping and getting out and rushing over to help them, because they would have had time to do that, they drive over with their car, and they whip the back end of the car around, so just the rear 2 tires go off the edge of the cliff, and since they're going fast enough, they have the momentum to get back on.
Sure.
And the person about to fly over the cliff catches the spoiler on it, so they don't actually use their arms and legs to help their friends. They just use their cars as extensions of themselves. Like, remember, they didn't grab them with their hands, they grabbed them with their car, and
With
that
the
is
spoiler of their car.
the spoiler of their car. So yeah, and for anyone who has not watched those movies, if you
They're
like
ridiculous.
action movies, I always tell people watch the 5th one. If you don't enjoy the 5th one, you're not going to like where the series goes from there. Like if the 5th one is like too insane and over the top for you, don't bother watching the rest, because they don't tone it down at all. It just gets more dumb.
It gets worse.
They go to space
love it.
with duct tape.
I love it, but it's dumb.
I think I need to start watching these movies now.
Oh, they're great.
They're very entertaining. I will say
Yeah.
that. Like, I've watched the recent releases, and I'm always like, I had fun watching this. It was so ridiculous. It's amazing. And Vin Diesel's basically indestructible for some reason.
Wow.
He just grunts 90% of
Just
the
gets
time.
shotgun blasted in the face. He's like, ain't need a face when you got family.
There is
See, I've been watching a lot of Star Trek recently, so this is like the complete opposite of
Opposite,
that.
yeah.
if you want something so Star Trek actually has like messages and actually has intelligence behind the
Ethics and
writing.
morals and
Yeah.
all that. Yeah.
I
cool,
mean,
love
there's
it.
ethics and
Beautiful.
believe one of the weird. This is like, oh man, I gotta stop. I could go off on a tangent. What I will say is,
You should make me watch one of these and come on your show, and I'll be like, "What the fuck is happening?
What did you just do to me?
What'd you make me watch?" I loved it, but I'm so confused.
the funny thing is that like they just get more and more, like, how can I put this? They do get more and more over the top and more silly, but you just can't help but enjoy it. There's so much. There was something that Jiggy said that sparked something, and now I've already lost my train of thought and the thread of what I was going to say. So if I remember it, I'll jump back in here. Otherwise, I'm just going to continue to ramble. But yeah, if you don't like the 5th one, don't bother with the rest, because they get more and more insane over time. And I actually always encourage people to watch them in order, because believe it or not, there's a really dumb overarching plot line as the movies go on. But it makes it much more fun if you watch them in the order they came out, and you'll see why that's like, normally I wouldn't say that's important, but like it's just dumb, silly fun, and I love them, and they're silly. Oh, I remember what I was going to say is, we were talking about like with Star Trek, how it's all, there's these very, like, it's trying to say something and have more like these deep morals. The Fast and Furious movies, they actually have a really good like familial, like, how you are supposed to treat your friends and have each other's backs, and like you call each other, like that type of stuff. It actually does a pretty good job at that. But it has a lot of line deliveries where they think they're saying something like badass or deep, but it's not, and it doesn't make any fucking sense.
It's like pseudo intellectual or bro
No,
intellectual.
it's lower than that. But like,
Don't eat that
what
chicken. You'll have raging diarrhea. I don't need diarrhea. I got family. It's like
The diarrhea is my family.
my favorite line, my favorite example of this is in the 7th movie. This is a mild spoiler. Vin Diesel and another character who I will not name, just for those who have not seen it, just because it's a fun character. They are playing chicken with their cars. They're driving head first at each other. Neither of them yield and they slam into each other, arguably going 90 miles an hour minimum, right? Slam into each other. Neither of them are wearing seatbelts, but they don't fly out of the cars for physics I don't understand. They get out. Vin Diesel looks at the dude's car and sees that he like reinforced it, right? Like he aligned it with like metal rods and steel and whatnot. And he looks at him. He's like, "You reinforced your chassis. It's like going into a ring with weighted gloves," and meaning that you cheated at this thing we do. Well, you know, like weighted gloves is cheating in boxing. So he's accusing this person of cheating at driving into each other with their cars. And then they say, what is it? They say, the guy's like, I didn't grow up on the streets you did. I grew up on, like meaner streets than you did. I'm not here to play games. And he has a line where he's like, well, that's the thing about street fights. The street always wins. I don't know what the fuck that means. I don't understand it. And I love it every time it's delivered. Inject more of that into my veins. Thank you.
Oh god.
And rant. That's patreon.com/still-loading-pod.
I need to watch these movies.
It's incredible.
So I watched the first 3 and they were pretty good.
The first one is just Point Break with cars. The second
It's
one
good.
is like early 2000s like action romp. It's
Yeah.
very
Tokyo Drift is really cool.
I have to
Tokyo Drift
rewatch
is
it,
a
but I
lot of
remember
fun.
really liking it.
It sticks out because it feels like it's more focused on the cars than the other ones.
Yeah. The fourth one is kind of like sets the formula for what it will be, but it's a lot more serious. Excuse me. That one's just called Fast and Furious.
Yeah, the first one is the Fast and the Furious.
Yeah, it's the Fast and the Furious, and the fourth one is just Fast and Furious, and then the fifth one is Fast 5, and it goes off from there. But I've already rambled and ranted too much. So, but yeah, patreon.com/still-loading-pod.
Still loading pod. Thrak, what you up to, buddy?
As you guys are, I'm a part of the Superpod Network. So, my show, the 3DO podcast, is on that. So be sure to check that out. At this point, I don't know what we just kind of fly by the seat of our pants on that one. And I also occasionally do blogs on the Superpod. The most recent one, as of this recording, was mine on Medal of Honor, the first one for the PS1. So you should go read that if you're interested in punching Nazis. Outside of that, you can follow me on Blue Sky at Thrak. I'm on Instagram at Thrak94. And say other things I'm doing. I'm currently doing a big long series with Chris from A Novel Console about the Metal Gear series. Hopefully by the time this is out, the first episode will be out, and we'll probably been working on the second one. Who knows? Timing on that may be a little iffy, but yeah, that's just what I do. Yeah.
Amazing.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, man. This has been awesome. And you will be back whether you like it or not.
Well, we're doing that Army Men thing.
That's right. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. I cannot wait.
Jiggy, what about you, buddy? How's things?
Things are going great.
Good,
YouTube stuff in the works. I actually just dropped a kind of a, people joked it was like a Jiggy look back direct. I dropped like a little image that said coming soon of just all the different videos I've been working on, because I've been not pumping out content as regularly as I normally would, but I've got so many things going on. I'm going to be streaming Quest 64, which I've never played before.
Oh,
hell yeah. Shout out to our boy Quest.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm hopping on Friday and going to start streaming that every Friday, as long as it takes to beat this game. It's going to be fantastic. I've got a Mysteries of Pikmin on GameCube video coming out. Working on that. I also have a Mysteries of Ape Escape for PS1.
Yeah.
And then I have 2 Wandering Worlds, which is a game where I use a camera tool and go through. It's kind of reverse Boundary Break. I like Boundary Break. Boundary Break looks on the outside and like, what's off screen? What can we not see? And I'm like, let's hyper zoom in on these textures and see like any small details, see if there's anything weird, and it's pretty cool sometimes what you can find. You don't expect it. So I'm doing one for Smash Brothers Melee. That's a collaboration with another YouTuber, and one for Banjo-Tooie, which I'm really excited about. And that one's taking forever because the worlds are huge.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
I have a surprise video that I'm not announcing yet, but it's going to be legit, and it's going to have a really cool update from me about a project. So that'll come at some point. But it's super excited.
Nice, man. And then as for this show itself, we normally, obviously, cover the N64. So that's Remember 64 show across social media, which at this point, similar to what the other fellows have said, is Blue Sky and Instagram at this point. And also, if you want to watch these episodes, or if you want to watch the other videos that I put up every once in a while when I have a few minutes to make something silly, or put out some gameplay videos and things like that, that's on YouTube. And you can subscribe to that to get an idea of every once in a while when I have inconsistent times to stream games. I don't have that time available to me as much as I'd like to. Jiggy has a schedule, and you should check out him playing the games like he just mentioned. So, but if you subscribe, you'll get that little notification of when I go live, and I'll play games like Grunty's Revenge, which I streamed, and sometimes just random stuff that I have in my backlog that I'm playing through on Game Pass or something like that, just to sort of sit down and share my time with the games. That is Remember 64 on YouTube, and on Patreon, patreon.com/Remember64 show. You can get every single episode early, sometimes even weeks ahead of time, because ones like this are recorded very early. And why not share them to those that are patrons? You can also get pre-show chats. You can get some other episodes that I'm trying to do. Again, time is tricky sometimes, but other games I'm playing away from the 64, those would be little mini audio recordings and ramblings. I put up a couple of those recently as well. And also, I guess give us a rating on your podcast app of choice, as we always want everybody to do, to help us get found even further. And and then one thing I meant to mention, I think I'm going to put a little thing at the beginning of the episode, but I have a new thing that I'm doing. I want to hear more from people that are watching and listening. It's called voicecast.app, and then you can name it after ours. Ours is obviously Remember 64. So voicecast.app/Remember64. You can leave a voice message about what you think of the show, what you think of episodes, games that we've played, games that are coming up that you want to share your thoughts on. So you can check social media to see sort of, what games might be coming up, and you can say, hey, I played this game, and I love it, or I hate it, or why would you cover this? It's trash. Whatever. You guys are trash. I don't care. Tell us what you think. It could be anywhere from 30 seconds to 5 minutes of a message. Make it a little shorter. It's easier to play on the show. And then we'll have that message, say who you are, where you're from, and we'll play the message on the show, and we'll have that included in our recordings, which is what I want to do going forward. So that is voicecast.app/Remember64, and it is completely free. You can also find that link in the show notes, and also across social media as well. So that's it,
everybody. You know what else
everybody.
is completely free?
What's that?
You know what else is completely free?
No, what is it, Jiggy?
Rating this podcast.
That's right.
Right. Yeah.
Is it? Is it free?
It doesn't cost any money to give it 5 stars, so there you go.
That's right.
At least not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Smoke them while you got them. Yeah. 5 stars.
Smoke them while you got them, kids. So we'll see you next time on the show. Banjo-Kazooie is out there at this point. We have Rayman 2, where Josh was on. Getting back into the swing of things in 2025 has been awesome. I guessed almost every episode to start the year, which has been great, and more to come throughout the rest of the year. So stay tuned. Thanks, everyone, for listening and talking some GBA with us. Thanks, guys, for joining me. We will see everybody soon. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.